Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me for another restful live stream of true, scary stories to help you fall asleep. We've been doing live streams a little bit differently on this channel, and I've kind of been enjoying the way that we've been doing it. So what we're going to be doing today, first off, I have a few guests with me today. I have the wonderful Phoenix Fire. How's it going, buddy?
Or good evening, everyone. How are you?
Many of y'all know Phoenix Fire. He's been on a bunch of my live streams in the past. He's been on some videos in the... Have you been on once or twice on videos in the past?
I think I've been on
I think it's been
twice.
twice. Yeah, I think you've been on twice, and then you've been on several live streams in the past. And we also have another very, very good friend of the channel, the excellent Grim Reaper's Nightmare. How's it going, my Kiwi brother?
Kia ora. Yes, amazingly well. Thank you for bringing me on with you.
Oh, no problem, man. I'm glad to have you. And last, but definitely not least, I have the wonderful, the beautiful, the magnificent Interscare Wifey.
Good evening.
If y'all don't know, every one of these people that I have on my stream with me today has their own channels. They will be dropped in the chat throughout. Grim, do you want to go ahead and tell people what your channel link is?
Yeah, all right. If you look me up as at the Grim Reaper's Nightmare, all one word, you'll find me there with my little chibi character. That's my primary focus at the moment, but I am working on a sleep channel, which I'll release a little bit later.
Excellent. I know that we're all looking forward to that sleep channel, and I know that I love listening to your horror narrations as well. They're all very, very good. Phoenix, do you want to go ahead and drop yours as well?
Both my channels or just the sleep one?
Whichever one you want to drop or both, whatever you want to do.
Sure. For those that enjoy horror stories, you can join me over at Phoenix Fire Narrations or youtube.com/@PhoenixFire_YT. And then I just created my new sleep channel last week, I do believe it was. And it is youtube.com/@backtoashes_YT. And that is strictly sleep videos.
And then Interscare Wifey, do you want to drop yours?
I'll drop it in chat because I have no idea what my...
If you don't know, Interscare Wifey is going to drop her channel link in chat, but it's also youtube.com/@Interscare Wifey. Alrighty, so what we're going to do today is, as always, we're going to have rain sounds, which I need to get started up right here real quick. While I'm doing that, I'll go ahead and explain the rest of what we're going to be doing. As always, we're going to be reading true scary stories. I apologize, that was a bit loud. All right, there we go. We're going to be reading true scary stories as always, but also we're going to be having a Q&A. So between our stories, Interscare Wifey has some pre-screened questions that she's going to be asking to all three of us. But also, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in chat.
Also, if you have any recommendations for what you'd like to see, stories to be read, etc., please feel free to drop them in chat.
Absolutely, both of those. If you have questions, you can put them in chat. And if you have requests for certain types of stories, feel free to put them in chat. Samantha Scotton, I do believe that I turned Grim up. If I need to turn him up more, I can.
I just turned my gain up, so that might have fixed it.
Okay, awesome. So I've got him turned up. Do you want to try talking one more time?
Yes. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K.
Okay, awesome. That looks like it's hitting good. If people are still having problems hearing him, please let me know. Samantha Scotton, thank you so much for that $3 super chat. I really appreciate that. Welcome in, by the way, to everyone who's watching right now. Welcome in to Big Chungus, Phoenix Fire, Rachel Mahay, Samantha Scotton, Spencer Dillahay, the Draconian Universe, the Grim Reaper's Nightmare, and Empress Serenity. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate y'all. Y'all are awesome. And without further ado, if we don't have any questions from chat, we will go ahead and hop right in to our first story. I'll kick it off with, my husband woke me up from my nap. So this happened back in 2021. I was about 25 weeks pregnant. I remember I used to get extremely sleepy and tired, so I'd be taking random naps all the time. One day, my husband told me that he was going to the store to get a few things, and asked if I wanted to go, which I replied, no, I think I'm going to go take a nap. He ends up leaving, and I fall asleep immediately. Eventually, I hear him come in. I just remember it so vividly because I remember him coming into the room and specifically asking me, would you want some pizza? I got the croissant crust that you really like. I also remember getting excited and saying yes please after that encounter. All I remember was waking up once again, even though I had already woken up. But I brushed it off thinking that I fell asleep again because I was a very tired person while pregnant. I start rubbing my eyes and I'm extremely confused. I get up. Some of the lights were off, so I turn them on. And then I say, honey, is the pizza ready? And no response. I think, maybe he didn't hear me. So I go to the bathroom, and when I got out, I hear the door open. My husband was coming in through the door with a bunch of bags. I was so confused. I asked him, did you go to the store again? And he's like, again? What do you mean? And I told him, weren't you making pizza? Still confused, he says, I just got here. I'd like to blame it on confused, foggy pregnancy brain, but that was so creepy because it felt so vivid. Alrighty. Welcome in Ellie, welcome in Michelle D, and yes, I do want to tell everyone, happy Friday the 13th. I can't believe that I neglected to say it whenever I was doing my intro to the stream. Thank you guys so much for being here, and happy Friday the 13th, everyone. Welcome in Lazy Llama, welcome in Mark Collins, how y'all doing today? Inner Scare Wifey, do you have any questions for us?
Surely. Okay.
Oh wait, I do want to say before you do that, Draconian Universe did say big congrats to Enter Scare Wifey for hitting 1K subs. You both are doing amazing work. Keep it up. Yes, big congratulations to Enter Scare Wifey on that.
Thank you.
Round of applause.
Thank you so much, Catherine Scott, for subscribing to the channel. I do appreciate that. All right, Enter Scare Wifey, I do apologize.
Oh, not a problem at all. Okay, so we'll start with Phoenix. Do you have any superstitions that you believe in? Friday the 13th is quite superstitious to some people. Do you have any particular superstitions that you believe in?
Weirdly, no. I really don't. No. I don't have any at all.
Do you have any, Grim?
As a Kiwi, we tend to do that touch wood every time we say something. You know, it's like, oh, it's not going to rain today, touch wood. That's one thing I always do, even though I never have any wood on my head a couple of times.
And you?
I wouldn't say that I really have any superstitions. I mean, some people would say that if you believe in things like skinwalkers and wendigos, you'd be pretty superstitious. And I definitely tend to believe in cryptids. A lot of them, like Bigfoot, skinwalkers, wendigos, different things that go bump in the night, because I definitely believe that there are things that we haven't been able to identify because they're so elusive. And then Inner Scare Wifey, I'll let you answer that question as well, because I know that you are Superstition Sally over there.
I believe in like all of them. So if I say something that I shouldn't, I knock on wood 3 times, of course. Salt on the doors, I sage. I'm Native and Mexican, so I mean, there's a lot of cultural things there, a lot of beliefs. I mean, I'm very, very, very superstitious.
And I know that Inner Scare Wifey is generally the one that's actually like corralling the questions and asking them. But this question was asked directly to Inner Scare Wifey, so I'll go ahead and ask it. Rachel Mahay asked, when will we get the face reveal from Wifey? I believe she said at 1K we would get the face reveal.
I will absolutely do a stream. I want to make sure that I have enough people that would attend, and I would probably do that on my channel. But
Absolutely.
I will definitely be doing that.
Awesome. I look forward to that. And that's something that we're definitely going to get planned.
Absolutely.
It'll be a lot of fun, too.
Yeah.
You'll be in the captain's chair instead of me this time.
I am quite the character, so we'll see how that goes.
Alrighty. Do one of you have a story that you would like to read now?
I'll let Phoenix take the first one.
Alrighty. We'll go to the rain screen and send it over to Mr. Phoenix Fire.
Right, here we go, folks. This one is entitled, I Believe I've Been Having a Demonic Presence in My Dreams. I'm not sure if this is the place to run to, but I'm terrified. I'm running to wherever I can for answers, but I'm always on to my dream. There's two parts here. I've had it twice. The first part last week, and today my dream continued from exactly where it stopped the first time. I've woken up drenched in sweat, gasping for air and crying. The crying part, I literally woke up crying. There are some spots I don't understand or can't explain. There's no backstory to them and weren't in my real life other than the dream, so I have no idea about them. The first part of my dream last week began in my nanny's living room. I was sitting with my little brothers and my littlest sister when I felt something pulling me. Like it was calling me, but there wasn't anything there. Like no sound. My siblings clearly didn't sense it. I was following whatever was drawing me in. I was led to this bucket or something. I don't know what it was, but it was like a white structure. My little sister's hair was just sitting in this structure on the bottom. I don't know, but there was a blue rope sitting in there too. At this point, my younger siblings had jumped in without me realizing. Before I could react to them, every single one just jumped in. I just assumed because our sister was in this thing. It was too late to stop them before I realized. As they went in, more ropes appeared. I was terrified, so I ran outside. That's where I seen past childhood animals just sitting there, walking around our yard. Our porch was the same. It had been untouched and not rebuilt yet. But my childhood animals, every one of them had passed at that moment. They all had distinct patterns on them. Those patterns all glowed neon red. I scooped up an animal that I never owned, though. Out of all my animals sitting there, I grabbed a chameleon. I never owned one. Not once did I ever own one. I don't know where it came from. I grabbed him and ran to the car. I can't remember who was in the driver's seat. For some reason, I never looked at them. I never even looked at them. I was so terrified, I only kept looking at the lizard. I never owned in the place I just abandoned. My siblings, not knowing if they're dead, endangered, or alive. My dream cut off there. The second part just picked up exactly from the car. The same way I was freaking sitting, the same spot I was looking at before I woke up. I looked back at the spot my siblings were at. This time, all I thought was, I need to get them. I have to get them. My family is everything to me. I have to save them. Without hesitation, I ran back to the structure. I didn't know what to do. I stared puzzled at the hair and ropes combined together. I was panting and shaking. I just started pulling up the ropes. I pulled hard and as fast as I could. I managed to pull my youngest sister and both little brothers up. I just couldn't get my sister. I tried. I was desperate to get to her. I began pulling her by her hair, but whatever force was in there, it was stronger than me. It refused to let her go. I could sense it flooding the area. I again grabbed all my siblings and began running to the car. Again, I grabbed the same chameleon I never owned. When we made it to the car, I checked all my siblings head to toe, made sure they were okay. I had to be sure. That's when I saw my father sitting neatly between my siblings in the back of the car. My father's been dead since 2014. I've never, not once, since the age of 11, ever dreamed about my freaking father until now. Just sitting there normally while I panic because my siblings just got consumed by some upside down crap and my sister is still stuck in it. I don't know why, but my little sister Googled something and handed me my phone. She gave me a link and told me to click it. At this point, whoever was driving began to drive down the road away from my nanny's house. I clicked the link and my phone immediately began ringing an unknown number. That's where the demonic presence came in. Nobody was talking, but yet I hear whatever it was talking to me, screaming at me with no words or noise. He told me to admit it, to admit that I was jealous, to admit that I'm insecure. But not just that. It went into detail, just laying it all out, saying every one of my secrets, even the smallest of details. I just hung up. I couldn't admit those things in front of my siblings. And then the emails began. I started receiving them every minute. There was nothing in the emails, though. Just blank pages with the names of them, whatever it was. I looked up to see us at the stop sign at the end of the holler in my granny's house. I just remembered Jacqueline and thinking if I don't admit to my insecurities and lies, whatever it was forcing me to do so was gonna hurt her or worse. But before I could make my next move, I woke up drenched in sweat. But this time it was freezing cold in my room. My toes were numb from the cold. I couldn't really see. I was disoriented. But I had the urge to pee. When I opened my room door, the hallway was filled with the smell of incense burning. I don't know if that could have something to do with it, but it just scared me. I don't know. That dream just scared me. I wanted answers. I don't know if I should have stayed scared or just ignore it. I don't know where else to ask.
Alrighty. Excellent story by Phoenix. Well, excellent narration by Phoenix. Inner Scare Wifey, do you have another story or another question for us all?
Yes, I do. First of all, I'd like to say, though, beforehand, that anybody that can read live on stream, props, because that is the hardest thing I've ever tried doing before, and you both do a fantastic job at it. That was
Thank
great.
you.
Okay, next question, and that's for everybody, is Jason or Freddy? Might as well go with Friday the 13th.
I'll let our guests answer this one first.
Grim?
I would have to say Jason. That's only because he was one of the that I watched, to be fair.
Gotcha. Phoenix?
I'm going to go with Jason, and I may say something a little turbulent here, but I hate Freddy Krueger. He's a pedophile, and I don't like
Oh.
that. Yes.
And I'm going to have to agree. I'm going to say Jason as well. Just
Valid
simply because
argument.
his victims are more well-equipped than Freddy's.
Yes.
Would you like to tell the story of the first Friday the 13th?
Yes, I can. And just so everybody knows, I'm not going to fake it. I am reading right now. So, oh, we got some controversy going in chat right now. Midnight Chills Horror says Freddy. Christy Freeman says Jason. And Spencer Dillahay just says no.
Speaking of, I would like to give a big shout out. Hello, Spencer.
Freddy does have one-liners. You are right. That's something that Freddy does have going for him.
He's funny. Well, he's just got a thing for the kids, which is gross.
I agree.
To be fair, anyone who talks as much as Freddy kind of pisses me off a little bit. Like, I just can't stand that much talking.
I mean,
I prefer a silent killer.
Isn't that what we do, though, is talk all the time?
Hence why it's annoying, because I do it so damn much. I don't need anyone else to take up my time, you know what I mean?
I feel you. But the first Friday the 13th, it actually all started with one man named William Fowler. He was your stereotypical superstitious 19th century man. He was transfixed with the number 13. He attended PS 13, fought in 13 battles during the Civil War, built 13 structures in New York City, belonged to 13 secret clubs, and tried to coordinate all other significant events with the 13th date of each month. Then, one cold Friday the 13th in January of 1882, at 8:13 p.m., Fowler rented out room 13 of Knickerbocker Cottage and made his personal obsession public. This would be the first meeting of the 13th Club, of the 13 Club. The New York Historical Society reports that the event included 13 courses eaten underneath a banner reading Morituri de te salutamus. The dark message translates to, "We, who are about to die, salute you." What would become a regularly scheduled supper club was headed by Fowler until his death in 1897. He believed that 13 was not just a significant number in his life, but that it was his own lucky number. The mysterious cult eventually dismantled, but the legacy of Friday the 13th lives on. Fowler loved the number 13 because it brought him unparalleled and unexplainable luck. Today, his fondness of the number has been reimagined as fear. Most people believe the number is haunted and can only result in adverse happenings, not supper clubs. The fear of Friday the 13th is called frigatriskaidekaphobia. Whether Friday the 13th makes you want to hide under your covers or have friends over for dinner. Like Fowler, these freaky events may prove that there is some truth to those Friday the 13th superstitions. There's also been some things that happen on Friday the 13th, such as the Andes flight disaster. Many people are reluctant to fly on Friday the 13th, but the Aviation Safety Network debunked the superstition by researching the rate of fatal plane crashes on the date, and found that it was actually lower than the average of the other days of the month. Still, a number of mysterious and tragic plane crashes have occurred on the infamous date. On Friday, October 13th, 1972, 2 major plane crashes occurred. One was a large plane carrying a Uruguayan rugby team. The other, a larger plane flying from Paris to Moscow. The death toll from both crashes was more than 200. While the Moscow-bound plane resulted in the death of everyone on board, 28 people survived the initial plane crash in the Andes. But they truly had to survive. The plane went down October 13th, but the sole 16 survivors were rescued 72 days after the crash. To endure the harsh climate of the mountains, the men did everything they could to survive. This included turning to cannibalism and eating the bodies of their dead teammates. Their tragic and harrowing story was eventually retold in a book and film entitled Alive.
Very interesting. Definitely.
Yes, very interesting. That it was actually a supper club that turned into this superstition of fear.
Pretty cool.
Definitely cool. Sorry, my brain just went blank for a second. Grim, do you have a story that you would like to read to everyone?
I do indeed. This one is titled Marine Demons. I think one followed me home, Cancun.
Alrighty.
One of them just followed me back. Oops, let me start that again. Didn't pause for long enough. Alright. One of them just followed me back from Cancun to home. I've actually heard several stories about how they're actually more dangerous than the typical demon and how they slowly strangle their victims spiritually rather than outright attacking. They apparently just work differently from what I've heard for some context. I actually ended up spending 5 days in Cancun. Spent a lot of time at the resorts, exclusive beaches, even went for a couple of swims. Now, the thing was, this is that I actually got very lucky. I was just supposed to live at a different resort and without the all-inclusive VIP package, but one mum that was in the group me and my were traveling with had the worst timing ever. Bought 3 of us the best of all inclusive VIP tickets at the resort, but her sons were taking their midterms the week the whole group was supposed to go on vacation, so she gave them to my mum. Oh, the grammar in this one is beautiful. The one I met actually seems to take this weird form of a oarfish. After my communication attempt, I just gave as many visual details as I could on r/fish, and people say it's supposed to be a oarfish, which I later googled and it seems mostly accurate. Either an actual oarfish or a shadow figure of a fairly attractive woman, but with the thing on her head being an oarfish appendages. I was actually curious as to why she followed me back home from a vacation and what she wants with me. I did ask one question since my personal life after that had been fairly rough, getting the response along the lines of most people that come are typically rich, satisfied, but you are interesting and an outliner. Nothing else, just the occasional sense every now and then that she's there and watching me. I've heard of demon seahorses, but not a demon oarfish. Also, I highly doubt that she's any high-ranking one either. I don't think anyone has ever met her before, since I have never read about her. The one thing with high-ranking demons, if they don't just come to you, almost always you have to actively seek them out. Does anybody here know or even meet or heard of one? Honestly, the only other demon I've encountered, I have just banished since, aside from this one time she helped me when I didn't even ask or accept it, she was nothing but an enormous pain in the ass. For the rest of the time, kept taunting and messing with me, and I just at the end of my rope. I am seriously not sure what she wants to do with me. She hasn't done anything to me yet. There you go.
Alrighty, that was our favorite little Reaper, Mr. the Grim Reaper's Nightmare. Thank you so much for that. That was an excellent narration, even through all of those grammatical errors in that story.
My lord, I'm gonna next time proofread these before I read them, but that's okay.
Yeah, no problem. Interscare Wifey, do you have another question for us? Also, remember, in chat, everyone, we are doing a Q&A. If you have any questions for us, anything about narrations, just about us in general, about anything, please feel free to ask questions to us. And if you have requests for certain types of stories that you would like to hear us read, please put them in chat as well. All right, Interscare Wifey?
Okay, so I was wondering, what is your favorite subreddit? What type of stories do you enjoy narrating the most?
Alrighty, and I'll send this one over to our guests first as well. And Graham answered the last one first, so Phoenix, you have to answer this one first.
Mine would happen to be true crime. I also like paranormal and all things horror, any genre of horror I can find on Reddit.
Alrighty, Grim.
I am a sucker. No,
For no sleep.
I mean, yeah, I'm an author, so I put most of my stuff there as well.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a give and take from there. Plus, most of the guys on there are pretty understanding. I made some good friends compared to a lot of your true ones, where everyone seems to be a little bit more snarky when you ask them questions.
Yeah, I understand that one for sure. My favorite subreddit to read from is Let's Not Meet, because to me, there is nothing more scary than people, you know? There's nothing more scary in this world than just your average human being, because some of the things that human beings have done in this world are absolutely terrifying. And reading some of those stories on there, like I have an Apple Watch, and whenever I'm reading Let's Not Meet stories, I'm constantly getting alerted that my heart rate is above 120 because of the intensity of some of those stories. And I was also going to mention that one, Midnight Chills. For fictional stories, I do tend to go to Library of Shadows.
I love Library of Shadows as well. I would also like to say, for anybody that does like true crime, Back to Ashes has probably one of the best I've ever heard. It's one that you might not even want to fall asleep to because it's so interesting just to listen to the stories.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Alrighty. And without further ado, Interscare Wifey, there was a question in chat. Do you want to save that one for after this story, or do you want to do it now?
It's whatever you'd like.
We'll save that one for after this story. That way we can keep it going, keep the stream going.
Alrighty.
Alrighty. Kimberly, I promise we will get to your question right after this story. I saw a request for demon stories, so I've got one pulled up right here. I believe I have been seeing a demonic presence in my dreams. I'm not sure if this is the place to run to, but I'm terrified. I'm running to wherever I can for answers. But anyways, on to my dream. There's two parts here. I've had it twice. The first part of last week, and today my dream continued from exactly where it stopped the first time. I've woken up drenched in sweat, gasping for air and crying. The crying part, I literally woke up crying. There's some spots that I don't understand or can't explain. There's no backstory to them, and weren't in my real life. Oh, I got a message saying no sound. It's good on the stream, and I do apologize. There's some spots that I don't understand or can't explain. There's no backstory to them, and weren't in my real life other than the dream, so I have no idea about them. The first part of my dream last week began in my nanny's living room. I was sitting with my little brothers and my littlest sister when I felt something pulling on me. Like it was calling me, but there wasn't anything there. No sound. My siblings clearly didn't sense anything. I was following whatever was drawing me in. I was led to this bucket or something. I don't know what it was, but it was like a white structure. My little sister's hair was just standing in this structure on the bottom. I don't know, but there was a blue rope sitting in there too. At this point, my younger siblings had jumped in, without me realizing. Before I could react, they all, every single one, just jumped in. I just assumed because our sister was in this thing. It was too late to stop them before I realized. As they went in, more ropes appeared. I was terrified, so I ran outside. That's where I saw past childhood animals just sitting there, walking around our yard. Our porch was the same. It had been untouched and not rebuilt yet. But my childhood animals, every one of them had passed at that moment. They all had distinct patterns on them. Those patterns all glowed neon red. I scooped up an animal that I never owned though. Out of all of my animals sitting there, I grabbed a chameleon. I never owned one. Not once did I ever own one. I don't know where it came from. I grabbed him and ran to the car. I can't remember who was in the driver's seat. For some reason, I never looked at them. I never even looked at them. I was so terrified, I only kept looking at the lizard I never owned, and the place I just abandoned my siblings at, not knowing if they were dead, endangered, or alive. My dream cut off there. The second part just picked up exactly from the car, the same way that I was setting, the same spot I was looking at before I woke up. I looked back at the spot my siblings were at. This time, all I thought was I need to get them. I have to get them. My family is everything to me. I have to save them. Without hesitation, I ran back to the structure. I didn't know what to do. I stared, puzzled at the hair and ropes combined together. I was panting and shaking. I just started pulling up the ropes. I pulled hard and as fast as I could. I managed to pull out my younger sister and both of my little brothers. I just couldn't get to my sister. I tried. I was desperate to get her. I began pulling her by the hair, but whatever force was in there, it was stronger than me. It refused to let her go. I could sense it flooding the area. I again grabbed all my siblings and began running to the car. Again, I grabbed the same chameleon that I never owned. When we made it to the car, I checked all my siblings, head to toe. I made sure they were okay. I had to be sure. That's when I saw my father, sitting neatly between the siblings in the back of the car. My father's been dead since 2014. I've never, not once since the age of 11, ever dreamed about my effing father until now. Just sitting there normally while I panic because my siblings just got consumed by some upside down stuff, and my sister is still stuck in it. I don't know why, but my little sister Googled something and handed me my phone. She gave me a link and told me to click it. At this point, whoever was driving began to drive down the road away from my nanny's house. I clicked the phone, and the phone immediately began ringing an unknown number. That's where the demonic presence came in. Nobody was talking, but yet I hear whatever it was talking to me, screaming at me with no words or noise. He told me to admit it, to admit that I was jealous, to admit that I'm insecure. But not just that. It went into detail, just laying it all out, saying every one of my secrets, even the smallest details. I just hung up. I couldn't admit those things in front of my siblings. And then the emails began. I started receiving them every minute. There was nothing in the emails, though. Just blank pages with the name of whatever it was. I looked up to see us at the stop sign at the end of the holler to my granny's house. I just remembered Jacqueline and thinking if I don't admit to my insecurities and lies, whatever it was that was forcing me to do so was going to hurt her, or worse. But before I could make my next move, I woke up drenched in sweat. But this time it was freezing cold in my room. My toes were numb from the cold. I couldn't really see. I was disoriented. But I had the urge to pee. When I opened my room door, the hallway was filled with the smell of incense burning. I don't know if that could have something to do with it, but it just scared me. I don't know. That dream scared me. I want answers. I don't know if I should stay scared or just ignore it. And I don't know where else to ask. Alrighty. Enter Scare Wifey.
Yes.
Did you want to read the questions that we got from chat?
Absolutely. The first one was from Kimberly. There's two of them.
Okay.
And the first one is, do you listen to anything to help you sleep in or scare?
I do. I will be honest with you. If I didn't listen to stuff like this to go to sleep, I wouldn't believe that anyone would be able to sleep to scary stories. So I definitely listen to scary stories to fall asleep. Generally, I'll listen to people like Being Scared or Mortis Media. But now my main go-to is Back to Ashes. I'm not even going to lie. My number one go-to is Back to Ashes. So if you guys love scary stories to help you fall asleep, if you like my channel, go subscribe to Back to Ashes, because then you'll get more content at great quality and you will never be missing a night without a new video to help you fall asleep. What about you two, Phoenix or Grim? Do you guys listen to anything to fall asleep?
I tend to listen to crime stories, believe it or not. Even though I'm a horror narrator and sleep narrator, I truly am obsessed with true crime, and I just love falling asleep to it. I like the way it affects my dreams. I like learning all the facts, and my favorite type of crime stories to listen to are the ones that happened in the 70s and 80s, when there wasn't DNA and, today's technology available, and listening to how the cops and everything try to solve those crimes. It's very fascinating to me.
Alrighty. That is actually something that would be very good to fall asleep. And I think that's kind of why I like your voice. Inner Scare Wifey kind of pointed it out to me the other day. You sound just like the, is it like the Unsolved Mysteries or the Case Files guy, one of those two?
We talk about it all the time because I'm always watching shows like that on Netflix or whatever, and you have that true crime narrator voice.
You definitely do.
These are unsolved mysteries.
Oh, I love
of
it.
course.
I love it.
Absolutely. What about you, Graham? Do you listen to anything to help you fall asleep?
I mean, it depends on how I feel before, but to be fair, what triggered me to even start doing narrations was the likes of Mr. Creepypasta and stuff, and I would fall asleep listening to them. Not intentional, I didn't do it on purpose, but obviously that happened. Yeah, so I suppose, mainly
Awesome.
those sort of guys. And Interscare, obviously, you've been a big help to my sleeping pattern.
Well, thank you. I'm glad they help out.
I actually started out listening to Being Scared, and I love his voice, but I wanted louder rain sounds. So I asked Inner Scare to record for me because I knew he could kind of tweak that to my liking. So that really got me into listening to the stories. And then once Back to Ashes came around, I got kind of addicted to that because I like very, very high quality rain/fire sounds, and I'm very, very picky. So I definitely, that's what I listen to go to sleep. I can't really fall asleep to anything else anymore.
Well, thank you, Inner Scare Wifey. Kimberly, if you want to watch more than once, it'll definitely help out. I do appreciate that. Thank you.
We have another question. What's scarier, adults or children?
I'll let our guests answer this one first. Whichever one of you want to answer first.
Children, without a
Yeah.
doubt.
Absolutely.
You see, I can knock an adult in the mouth if he starts being smart, but I cannot hit a child in the mouth if they start showing me their black eyes. I'm just saying that's enough for me.
Black-eyed children, yeah, for sure. Phoenix, I think I heard you agree.
Well, I love children, but yes, they can be quite creepy, in a sense, and a little bit scary because they're so much smaller and you can't really see them. So it just depends on the situation, because also I'm scared of adults too. You've got your freaky ones out there that like to stalk and do crazy, crazy things for no reason.
Absolutely. I have to say children, though, because first of all, I'm a dad, and just parenthood in general is super scary. So that makes children scary. But then when you're talking about horror, right, the innocence mixed with that creepiness, like I'm thinking like the kids from what's The Shining, like the two twins from The Shining. Like that's one of the creepiest things in the world to me. Those twins just standing in the hallway. Inner Scare Wifey?
I come from a psychology background, so when I was doing my internship, I worked on a children's psych ward, and there were a couple of murderer children. So definitely children for me.
I agree. And like Midnight Chills Horror says something that's really interesting too. He said children don't have a fully developed consciousness. So they could do the most horrible things but not really understand what they've done is wrong. Kind of like how a baby snake can't control its venom. So you're 100% right. They don't have that impulse control or that understanding that things are wrong. So I definitely say children. Welcome in, Mother of the Drummers. Thank you so much. I'm glad that the videos help you sleep. I'm glad that we have been added to your nightly routine. And Adiako as well. I'm sorry, I had to figure out how to pronounce that name. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you joined us. Yes, I show my face just about every other weekend. We do a stream. So, glad to have you here. Alrighty. Do we have any more viewer-submitted questions in our Scare Wifey?
Not yet.
Alrighty. Do one of you have another story to read? Thank you so much for subscribing.
I have one if no one else is ready.
Modno Cinema, thank you so much for subscribing. I appreciate that. I'm sorry. You said that you have one, Phoenix?
Yeah, I sure do. If no one else does. I can go.
Absolutely. Oh, and this is one I forgot. I'm glad that you spoke up. Phoenix has a
Yes.
story that he wants to read that he wrote himself. So
That's amazing.
I am going to pass the mic to him and let him read you his story.
Also, before he begins, I'm going to be dropping his link to his narration channel right now. It's different than the Back to Ashes in case you'd like to catch more of his amazing bone-chilling narrations.
Absolutely.
Remember, it's horror stories, so it's loud, lots of SFX, probably stuff that anyone that likes to fall asleep to silent videos, my horror videos are loud.
Yeah,
Just to put that out there.
if you want something to listen to during the day to chill you to the bone, go to phoenixfire_YT. If you want something to help you fall asleep, go to back to ashes_YT. But without further ado, Phoenix Fire.
All right, everyone. Before I get started with the story, I will let you know this is loosely based on my life back in my earlier days, so this is a true story. Without further ado, the story is entitled The Shadow Man. Darkness. Pitch black, ice cold darkness. I have seen it now for quite some time. That night was the first time since I woke up that I realized that my room was freezing cold and darker than normal. I rolled onto my back and looked around in confusion. It was so damn dark, so pitch black dark, but I could see. It was all so clear. I looked around, still groggy from my sleep aid. There was a cabinet, a queen-sized wooden bed with a wooden nightstand next to it, a dresser with a mirror attached, and a small chair in the corner of the room. All of it felt unusual, yet so familiar. Out of nowhere, there he sat, the Shadow Man. I could see him sitting in the small chair in the corner of the room towards the foot of the bed. He opened his eyes and stared at me. He had short black hair and a pale face. He wore a black coat with a red collar and black shirt underneath. He looked at me with luminous, penetrating red eyes and growled, "Hello there. Would you like to leave?" I froze. What did he say? Did he just ask if I wanted to leave? I remained quiet. He stood up and walked towards me. I was petrified. The fear held me prisoner under the covers as he approached me. Panic struck me like a bolt of lightning as my heart began to race. It felt like it was going to beat right out of my chest. "If you would like to leave, speak now," he blustered, in a baritone, hair-raising, cadaverous voice. Whatever he was, it wasn't human. Who the F are you? What do you want from me? I managed to stammer out. My breathing became labored. I was sweating so much, I felt glued between the blanket and the mattress. An evil grin uncoiled across his pale face as his eyes narrowed into slits. He let out a low growl that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand at end. Long, blood-stained, razor-sharp teeth spilled over his black lips. Do you want to leave? He boomed. His voice echoed through the room so garishly the walls shook. I was trembling so bad. I felt like I was going to piss myself. The covers were going to pulverize my ribs at any moment now, it seemed. Yes, I want to leave. Let me out of here. I finally screamed. My head began to dizzy and I felt like I was going to pass out. My heart felt like it was going to burst. He ripped the covers back, grabbed my ankle and dragged me off the bed. I was completely stiff with fear. Every muscle felt paralyzed. I could do nothing but helplessly watch from within my own body. My body hit the wall as my head thudded like a rock against the floor. The force of which I was being dragged seared a friction burn right into my back. Why couldn't I move? My vision was blurred from the sweat and tears in my eyes. Rattling. I think I hear rattling. The ringing in my ears was so loud. It was hard to determine what was happening. I think he was opening a strange door that I didn't recognize. I felt a rush of bitterly cold air sweep over me, and I was yanked even harder through a doorway. You wanted to leave. Now is your chance. I will give you until the count of 3. Get up and run. My body slammed into the ground, knocking the air out of me as he let me go. His footsteps were loud and heavy as he sauntered away from me, back into my apartment. I couldn't sit upright. My body was still paralyzed as I gasped for air. I looked up through blurred, teary vision and saw his shadow creeping back toward me. I arched my neck backwards so I could peer behind me. A cloud of pitch black darkness quickly washed over me. I faintly heard him growling. 1, 2. I felt myself slip from consciousness. Flashing lights. Bright, flashing lights. My head pounded and the deafening ring in my ears began to subside as I finally came to. Whoa, 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 take it easy. Just lay still and try not to take it too fast, came a voice that I didn't recognize. What? Where am I? I asked. You're laying outside your front door. We heard screams and loud banging. It woke us up and we came over to see if you were okay. How did you end up out here? Is everything okay? Sorry, I just lost my place. Hang on. Okay. How did you end up out here? Is everything all right? As my vision finally focused, I recognized the voice talking to me. My neighbors were standing over me with flashlights. A look of fear and concern stamped their faces. Is he gone? Did you see him? I said as I slowly sat up and held my throbbing head. See who? There's no one here but you. Oh, you're soaking wet and it's freezing out here. Do you need to go to the hospital? My neighbors asked. The man, the tall, pale man with red eyes, he was just here, I grunted. The feeling in my body came rushing back as I began moving my legs to stand up. Tall man with red eyes? What are you talking about? There's no one out here but you and us. Are you sure you're okay? Maybe we need to call the police. No, I'm fine. I must have hit my head a little too hard. I'll be okay. Thank you for coming over and checking on me. I'll take it from here. The neighbors helped me to my feet, and I told them goodnight as they ushered me back into my apartment. I turned the lights on and saw wet streaks along the floor that trailed through the hallway. I limped back to my bedroom and noticed the bedding crumpled on the floor. I plucked the pillows and blanket from the floor and made my bed. I sat on the edge of my bed trying to recollect what happened. My head was throbbing so bad. All I wanted to do was get some rest. I laid down and instantly slipped back into slumber. As I awoke the next morning, a sharp pain shot through my back. What in the world happened last night? I felt like I'd been beaten down with a sack of bricks. I shook the fogginess from my head and started my day. That evening, when I returned home, I took one of my trazodones so that I could get a peaceful night's rest. The sleep drug rapidly set in and I finally drifted off. Sometime during the night, I rolled over onto my back. I felt an ice-cold breeze sweep over me. My eyes shot open to an eerie, pitch-black darkness. I began to panic. From the foot of the bed, I heard a deep, sinister voice snarl. Would you like to leave? The end.
Alrighty. Thank you so much, Phoenix Fire. I do apologize. I had to unmute myself from both Discord and the stream. I've done it so many times where I've started talking and I was muted on the stream. So now I always double check myself. That's why it might take me a couple seconds after our guests read a story. Anyway, that was an excellent story, excellent narration, and just to know that it's based on life, that is touching, very touching.
It was terrifying.
Yeah, very, very much so. Excellent. Thank you so much for that story, Phoenix. Very, very well written. If you guys don't know, Phoenix is an amazing narrator, but he is also an excellent, excellent writer. Alrighty. And Interscare Wifey, I do believe, has some more questions for us.
I believe Midnight asked if you had any other hobbies or pursuits
outside of horror. Yes. Do you guys have any passions outside of horror, Phoenix or Grim?
I partake in, well, I guess other than narrating, I like to crochet, believe it or not. I like to, I make things like beanies and scarves and gloves and blankets and stuff like that. It's something my grandmother taught me before she passed on. And other than that, I'm a big family guy. There you go.
Awesome.
There's nothing more important than that, of course.
Nothing more important than family. Absolutely.
Much respect.
What about yourself, Grim?
I do stand-up comedy. I'm an artist and I'm an author, I suppose, are my three main dominant hobbies. I do video gaming because I'm a nerd and talk to you guys. So that's my run-through.
Wait a second. Hold on. Pause it. Let's rewind for a second. We've been friends for how long, and I didn't know that you did stand-up comedy.
Why do you think I say I laugh? I can't help myself but
you are
laugh.
hilarious, and I can see it.
The impressions and everything, too. He does great impressions.
I did not know you did stand-up comedy.
I did it for, I've been doing it for over 8 years now.
Wow.
But obviously it's nothing you're going to be seeing because I don't put myself on the internet, but obviously besides my voice. But yeah, no, I've been doing that for a while now. Started in a restaurant that I worked as a chef, so just kind of picked it up from there and kept going.
Wow, that is awesome. Myself, passions, I would say that I don't know if I would call them passions, more like hobbies, but I definitely love to golf. Interscare Wifey's given the confused eyes, like, no, they're passions.
Obsessions.
More like obsessions than passions. Yeah, obsessions is the right word. I love to golf. During the summer, I'm probably out. Last year, I didn't golf so much, but the year before that, I was out almost every day on the golf course.
Every day after work, every single day.
It got to the point where I literally got a part-time job at the golf course just so I could golf for free. I also am a major collector of pop figures. If you guys don't know, I have like 50 to 60 pop figures probably currently. A lot of pop figures. I love horror pop figures. I've got a ton of them. And I also love to play video games, mostly Rocket League recently. I've been playing a lot of Rocket League. So yeah, and then there was one more, but I can't remember what I was going to say.
You're a gamer, an avid gamer.
An avid gamer, yes. But yeah, so those are my main hobbies outside of horror. Interscare Wifey, what about yourself?
I like the old black and white horror films. I like to watch movies a lot. I love true crime, so I love falling down rabbit holes where I'm reading court documents. I'm a total nerd. I love reading. Starting to write, really enjoying that. And I'm a mom, so that's my favorite thing in the world is just to play with my kids and be a mom. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And that's another thing that I love about you, you know, that you love movies and such, and that you're such a good mother. But the movie thing, I went to film school, so like being with someone who can match that film energy, I absolutely love it. And Midnight Chills, I don't know if you were talking to me or not, but I play on PC. What about you, Grim? Where do you play your games at?
Xbox
You're
and
on
Steam.
Xbox and Steam.
P5 and anything, to be fair, but dominantly PC because I set that rig up. Play almost everything next 30 years.
Yeah, that's where I'm at is PC. But I can crossplay with Xbox on a lot of things with Xbox crossplay. That's how I play with my kids a lot, actually, is we play Rocket League together.
Absolutely.
They got an Xbox Series X, and I'll play on my PC. They'll play on their Xbox, and we'll chat through Discord. One of them will use Discord on their phones and set it between the two of them. But anyways, now that those questions are answered, Grim, would you like to read another story? Actually, two
Yes.
stories, because you got two short ones.
Yes, that's right. Let's go. So this one is titled. First one is a Ouija board experience. I had recently seen someone else in this group post a similar story, and I figured this was the place to share mine. Also, I am a first-time poster. Let this be known before I start. We were kids and had no idea about the paranormal at this time. However, my siblings and I had an Ouija board in our house. We had saw this trick that if you went into a dark, small space with an Ouija board and a mirror, you could see the ghost that you were talking to. Now, us being kids, I was probably 8 at the time. We were excited to try it. So my brother, 14, and my sister, 12, and my other sister, 11, all rushed into my brother's closet with a small flower mirror that we had. At first, we were asking silly questions, normal kid stuff. Where are you? Who are you? What's your name, etc. Me being the youngest, I was completely sure my older siblings were pulling a prank on me. Sorry, I took my hands off. To accuse them of moving the shit. My siblings then suggested that we all ask a question and then take our hands off and see if it moved. Being dumb kids, we asked, "Who do you want to kill?" We all took our hands off the planchette, shot towards my brother. All of us, being extremely freaked out, ran to my dad to tell him. to which he then made us smash the board with a sledgehammer outside. Does anyone know what this experience could be? Although I'm super interested in the paranormal, I do not know a lot of information about it. This story has haunted me since I was a kid, and I'm glad I got to share it. Thank you. Story number 2. My friends and I and Ash busted in half. Sorry, I'll start that title again. My friends and I used a glass ash busted in half. So, when I was in high school, my friends and I were into really spooky shit that we had no business messing around with. We would visit cemeteries at night, go to our small town's local haunted spots, try to stir up any urban legends, but the story I'm about to tell made us quit cold turkey trying to seek out the paranormal. One night we were over at our friend's cemetery. We were over at our friend's century old home. I mean it was an old and creaky, and the perfect setting for a night of Ouija. We boarded out, and for the first half an hour, nothing insane happened. Just some movement from the planchette. Then, feeling smug, I asked the spirits what my middle name was. The thing is, my middle name is literally made up by my parents. It's not a real name. No one in the circle knew, let alone could spell my middle name. There was literally no way someone could even guess it, but the board knew. It spelled my middle name perfectly, and I could feel my heart fall into my gut. Keep in mind, my hands were not on the planchette, so I couldn't have moved it myself. Everyone laughed because what a silly middle name that would be, but I had to confess that it was mine, and the color drained from everyone's face. All of a sudden, a glass ashtray that was sitting a few feet away on the coffee table split clean in two, and we were done. We left the house to go stay somewhere else, and fortunately, I have never experienced anything that terrifying again. There you go.
Alrighty, excellent narrations by Mr. Grim Reaper's Nightmare. I'm trying to get your channel link here real quick. I do apologize. I'm trying to get it out there for everyone to be able to click on. Here we go. If you haven't yet, please go to that link and subscribe to the Grim Reaper's Nightmare. He does excellent horror narrations on YouTube.
Also, if you're in the US and you wake up really early, I love the fact that he posts at the times that he posts at, because he tells really, really good stories, and they generally hit us in the morning. So
Yeah.
it's very nice to have that variety.
Definitely something good to wake up to in the mornings whenever he posts.
It's the fortunate factor of being in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Good day, everybody.
Do we have any more questions, Interscare Wifey?
Absolutely. What's the hardest thing about what you do on YouTube?
I have to think about that one, because there's a few things that can be difficult. I'll let our guests answer this one first, too. What would you guys say is the hardest thing about being a narrator on YouTube?
I think the undervalue. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Grim.
The undervalue that a lot of people put on. Some people think that just because we read other people's stories that we're not original, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
it comes with that sort of stigma around it, but it does take a lot of work, and people not realizing that can sometimes be a bit of a downer. Yeah, that's my feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, too. About that. I know that in a lot of YouTuber circles, I'm not accepted because they see my content as very low effort, because they don't really know what truly goes into it. They see me as just someone who gets on there, reads, and is done. So yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from on that one, Grim. What about yourself, Phoenix?
A couple of things. One is every narrator's issue, and that, of course, is trying to find authors who would like their work narrated.
Hmm.
I read a lot, and it's hard for authors to want their stories simply posted on YouTube. But thankfully, I've met some wonderful authors, as you can see on my horror channel, that I narrate a lot of. The other, of course, is promotion. It's hard to really get yourself out there and find your niche, find your audience that that you want to read to. And then, of course, it's a lot of stress when you fall in love with a story and then you know have to take a few days and wonder, will the audience like this? Is it going to be too much? Is it going to be too gory? Is it too foul? Because I read every genre of horror. Nothing is left off limits for me. And then I also agree with what Grim said. I don't really let a lot of the negativity get to me, but in certain times, you know, it's kind of hard when there's criticism there. And then it does make you think for a little while, like, what can I do to change up myself? But then again, you know, I always stay positive, and tomorrow's another day.
Absolutely. Interscare Wifey.
For me, I don't consider myself like a quote unquote real narrator yet. I just started
You're
my channel.
absolutely a real narrator.
But what frustrates me is when people that I care about very much get trolled. I am a huge fan of narrators. I love listening to stories. It's probably one of my favorite things is just listening to all the different creative takes on things. And so when trolls come at the people that I really, really admire, I get very angry. And it makes me just want nothing more to do with it at all. Because I don't feel like I can handle that level of disrespect. So.
For me, doing what I do as a sleep narrator, I do 3 videos per week and that's a total of 5 hours of stories that I put out every week. That's reading the stories. It's 5 hours. And the hardest thing for me, for what I do specifically, is probably finding stories that you as the audience haven't heard before. Because I hate getting the comment, I've heard this so many times, why don't you look for new stories or find different stories that I haven't read? And it's not that I hate the comment, it's that I feel like I've failed you as an audience by not giving you something new and something fresh. I'm always trying to look for new stories, always trying to look for better stories, and always trying to find stories that you probably haven't heard before. Unfortunately, we as narrators can't listen to every narrator on YouTube, though, so we do let some of those fall through the cracks. There are just so many narrators on YouTube that it's hard to find stories that haven't been read before.
Let's bring this back around on a positive note.
Absolutely.
What is the coolest project you've ever done? What's your favorite? Your absolute favorite?
Guys?
Are we talking narrations
Yes.
or just
Yes.
hobbies or
Narrations.
Narrations?
Mhm.
I have a story on my Phoenix Fire narrations channel. It's called The Trees. And the reason it is my favorite, of course, the author is one of the most incredible people I have ever gotten the chance to meet. But 2, I use a lot of SFX. And for those that don't know what that is, that's sound effects. It's just a fancy word for it. I do every single sound effect in that video myself. And 9 times out of 10, most of the sound effects in my horror narrations are me. That is my just favorite thing I love to do.
That
Yeah.
was one of my favorite narrations on your channel. I was so obsessed. I was like running it with excitement up to tell Interscare about it.
I was gonna say,
you.
Interscare Wifey came up to me and was like, "Oh my God, listen to this one that I found on Phoenix's channel. It's so good." And I listened to it, and
Thank you.
it's probably one of my favorite videos on your channel.
Thank you.
So that passion really did come through in that story for sure. Grim, what about yourself?
All of them, because I'm completely and utterly biased. No, it's a tough question. I don't think I can actually limit it, unfortunately, down to like one specific favorite. I did like being able to pull on a Boston accent for a stuffed mannequin under the Theatre Mart stories, so probably sit with those to start with. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
And anytime I get to start talking about having a pizza and a coffee, I like, yeah, let's go. Let's take that down. Let's do it.
I love your accents,
Me too.
Grim. You do them so well.
If you want to watch something
you very
entertaining
much.
too, his shorts,
Yes.
they're extremely entertaining.
Yes, his shorts are so good.
Yeah.
I may brag. Grim and I we've done some collabs on
Yes.
my channel, his channel, and when I met Grim, it's just like one of those long lost brothers that I just never knew I had across the pond, and we just bounce off of each other. And his, the way he can manipulate his voice and his accents is out of this world. You guys really do have to check his channel out. It's insane.
I agree. Absolutely.
Look, is a Russian for a second. And thank you very much.
I love that one.
I try to make sure I am good for what I am up to. All right, thank you very much for this.
When you did your New Year's stream and you had that accent, me and Interscare were both like, what the hell?
Yeah.
We didn't know he was Russian. We had no idea that was an accent.
Yeah.
You did it towards the beginning of your stream and we were totally
We were like, that does
confused.
not sound like Grim. Why is he talking? And then we was like, oh, it's an accent. It took us
Somebody
a
took
second.
over. I had Russian hackers take over my YouTube channel on New Year's. That's what happened.
That's hilarious. For me personally, I have two favorite projects. My number one favorite project, it's my favorite because it's very sentimental to me. And it's the story that it didn't do great on the channel. It's only got 95 views right now, but it's my favorite, and it's called I'm Going to Marry the Man Who Will Murder Me. And the reason that story is my favorite is because it's the first story that I narrated with Interscare Wifey.
Oh.
That was the very first collab that her and I ever did. So that one is my number one favorite. And my number two favorite is one that hasn't come out yet. So make sure you stay tuned to youtube.com/Interscare because that one will be coming out very soon.
I'm just going to jump in here. Send me a link to that video because I'm going to share it around. It made me go oh, so everyone else needs to go oh.
I'll post a link to it real quick in the chat here. Let me see. Yeah, this video right here. It was the first one that Interscare Wifey and I collabed on together.
Cringe.
It's kind of cringe, the video itself.
I was a baby, a narration
But-
baby.
I loved it. And that's why.
It will be shared with every single person in my okay.
What about yourself, Interscare Wifey? Because you're doing your channel now.
Oh,
You have a channel. You're a narrator.
that is not my favorite thing. I do like telling the stories because it's very therapeutic. It sounds weird, but it's very relaxing to me. But the biggest thing about it that I like is that I have really terrible social anxiety. So I get very afraid of stepping outside of my comfort zone, and everything about this is stepping outside of my comfort zone. So it's making me a more bold and brazen person, and I really enjoy that. It's kind of a metamorphosis for me. So
And if you enjoy Interscare Wifey's voice and you want to hear her narrations, she puts out 3 videos every week. They're shorter than mine. They're not necessarily for sleep, but they're very, very relaxing videos. And I put her channel link in the chat there.
the next video that's coming out on Sunday also has Grim and Phoenix Fire because my voice is still not back to 100, and Interscare. So
Yeah, so make sure that you go check out her channel. I'm on there a lot. Obviously, I'm her husband. She wants me on there. She wants she wants me to read for her every once in a while, so I'll hop on there. We got Grim on there coming on Sunday, Phoenix on Sunday, me on Sunday, and then every video, obviously, Inner Scare Wifey. So definitely make sure you go check out that channel. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was shocked. I was shocked with how good those videos and those narrations truly are. And I'm not just saying that because she's my wife. I truly, truly believe that she is one of the best female narrators on the platform.
I want to learn a lot more. I'm very humbled by the other females on this platform, definitely.
Oh,
There
yeah,
are some
no,
amazing ones.
There are absolutely some amazing ones.
To butt in here as a newfound friend to you both, and meeting Inner Scare Wifey before she began really taking off on her channel. As soon as I heard her very first story, I knew she was going to do incredible. You just have a very profound voice that needs to be heard. Your
Thank you.
narrations are insane. They're so relaxing to listen to. Incredible job.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me.
You're very welcome.
I mean, I fully agree with everything said. I want to just quick.
Oh, I think you cut out there for a second, Grim.
No, that was me just making a weird sound effect after I said I agreed. That's
Oh, I gotcha. I gotcha. Alrighty. And without further ado, I'm going to read 2 very, very short Glitch in the Matrix stories, followed by 1 regular length creepy story. Our first Glitch in the Matrix story. A hole in a rock was suddenly filled with water. Hey all. A few hours ago, I was walking along a cliffside with large rocks on top. These rocks have holes in them of varying sizes and are all scattered all over the place, each having no connection to any other source apart from the rain. Anyway, I was looking at a particularly deep hole. I could see straight to the bottom, as it was midday and the sun was right above it. I turned away and then looked back at it, and it was filled to the brim with water. No other hole had water in it, and it hadn't rained for a number of days. I am 100% positive that this hole had no water in it at all upon my first viewing. This could have been a visual thing because if the water was inside it, then A, I wouldn't be able to see to the bottom so clearly, and B, the sun would have been reflecting off the water. And our second Glitch in the Matrix story. Disappearing pigeon. When I was maybe 17 or 18, a pigeon flew into my house through a window that we had opened fully. We tried to encourage the pigeon to leave through the same window, but the poor thing just panicked and started flying all over the shop to get away from us. Eventually, the pigeon just flew into a cupboard, and my dad shut the door to trap the pigeon inside. Around the same time, one of our neighbors had just gotten a dog. So we went to there and got the dog crate to trap the pigeon in and carry outside. We opened the cupboard door and the pigeon was just gone. We were worried that somehow it died in the cupboard. So we emptied the cupboard expecting to at some point find a pigeon corpse. But we found nothing. It's been 10 years and I still regularly try to figure out what the F happened to that pigeon. And then, a regular length, creepy story. This story actually comes from Quora. What is the creepiest thing a first responder has had to deal with? This is the response. The creepiest of all, you ask? Sit right back while I tell you a tale. It was a dark night in January. I was the lone state trooper stationed in a little town in the Texas Panhandle. The closest major city was 90 miles away. The phone rings at 3 a.m., and I bolt straight up and grab the phone. Yeah, I bark into the receiver. I had been working Rex for the past 15 hours on snowback. The wind had laid down for a little since day shift. It was blowing just enough to hear. Ice was falling on top of the snow. I could hear the ting-ting of ice bouncing off the windows, and the moan of the cold north wind. The dispatcher's sweet voice said kindly, "Dan, I'm sorry to wake you, I grumble a sorry for being gripey. You've got a wreck west of Lakeview at the 658 intersection, she chimes. She finishes. All other units are working multiple crashes on US 287 and I-40. She knows I was thinking, why can't you call a night unit? I tell her thanks and it's okay, I understand. We hang up. I crawled out of my warm bed, and I hear my wife roll up into the blankets and mumble a sleepy, be safe. I give my standard, always babe. I put my uniform on and add some extra layers for the cold. When I got off at sunset, the chill factor was 25 degrees. Whoever said it's always hot in Texas obviously has never been to the Panhandle. I threw on my heavy parka and pulled my Yukon hat over my head and headed out. I was thinking, the troops in South Texas don't even get issued these hats. That should have been a clue when I got stationed up here. I walked out the front door and could see the shiny glaze of ice over the snowpack. Little pieces of ice bounced off my hat and shoulders as I walked towards my 1987 Ford Mustang. If you're not familiar with this car, it's awesome on dry pavement. It's fast and light, so that pretty much means that it sucks on snow and ice. I look at my pony, and it resembles an igloo. After breaking the ice off the door handle and keyhole, I bang on the door to get it open. It cracks and pops as I pull it open. I turn the key and the 5.0 SSP police engine roars to life. Usually I get a warm fuzzy feeling when I hear the rumbling sound, but I know she's gonna handle like a seal on ice, so I'm not so warm and fuzzy this time. I check 10-8 with dispatch and ask for the temperature. This is an 80s model car and it doesn't have a heads-up display with a ridiculous amount of information on it like the temperature. 12 degrees, a familiar voice cracks over the Motorola radio. Good grief, I mumble to myself. I should have been a Florida trooper. I grabbed my heavy-duty ice scraper and got to work on the windshield. 15 minutes later, I'm ready to go. As I back up out of my drive, I tap the disc brakes slightly. She still slides sideways into the neighbor's yard. Man, it's slick, I think. I put the pony in second and let out the clutch slowly. She eases out onto the ice cap and idles slowly down the road. It's 25 minutes to get to the next little town 12 miles away. As I idle through town, I see a man at the telephone booth flagging me down. There's a lone street lamp above the booth, and it's directly above the stranger. He's wearing a long black overcoat and a fedora is perched on his head. His head is bent down slightly, so there's a shadow over his face. I can barely see his nose. The guy is around 6'8". He says in a deep, shaky voice, "I'm sure glad to see you." Now this guy is creepy. I mean gates of hell creepy. As an armed Texas state trooper, I don't get shaken much. But there ain't much that I'm afraid of. But this dude is a creepy creep. He slides his huge frame into the passenger seat, and his knees are way up by his head. Mustangs aren't made for NBA players. The ice is popping and cracking, and there's almost a full moon, so the ice and snow have an eerie glow. Every once in a while, a piece of ice will break loose on a tree, and a falling chandelier of ice will cascade off the tree and crash to the ground. I think to myself, this is ridiculous. It's not creepy, I'm just letting my imagination get stupid. I crank up the heat for the guy and ask him if he was in the wreck. He says yes, like Lurch the butler from the Addams Family. Yes. I verify the crash location and ease out on the road. It takes about 8 minutes to get to the scene 3 miles out of town. As I arrive at the intersection, I see a Chevy Suburban lying upside down in the field next to the road. I bet that was a rough ride, I say to Lurch. Says Lurch. I check out at the scene with dispatch. I exit the car and start scooting towards the Suburban. There is a downhill slope to the wreck, so I squat low to get to my center of gravity as low as I can. I slide off the edge and use my hand as a rudder. At the bottom, I slide almost all the way to the Chevy. Standing up, I scoot forward. As I get to the side of the Chevy, I turn my steam light on and write the tag number down. For a minute, I think surely he was alone, or he would have said something. The moonlight was glinting off the glass of the Chevy as I rounded the back side. The wind had completely laid down and it was eerily quiet, except for the ice cracking and popping. I turned my stream light towards the big window that stretches across the back of a Suburban. My light illuminates a 90-year-old dead woman pressed up against the glass, wrapped in a white sheet. I dropped my light and stumbled backwards, almost falling. A cold electric shock shot up my spine. I might have yelled out also, I can't quite remember. My adrenaline is pumping me full of energy right now. I reach for my sidearm as I look back towards the Mustang. I can see the tall, fedora-wearing giant sitting there, and my mind is racing. What the heck is going on, I'm thinking. Did he kill this woman? Did she die in the crash and he just forgot to tell me? I unstrapped the Smith & Wesson 357 Magnum at my side and eased it up a couple of inches as I stare at the dark form in my car. I decide to take one more look before I put the guy on the ground and arrest him. Retrieving my streamlight, I light up the window again. The old woman is strapped to a gurney. I bent down and looked up at the floor. There they were, little chrome steel latches. I walk up the hill to my car. I open the door and ask Mr. Creepy what he's doing when he wrecked. He informs me that he is a mortician and he was transporting a body. I ask him if he doesn't think that I could have used that information earlier. He gets a shocked look on his face and starts apologizing. Scare wifey?
Yes. I asked a question in chat that I think maybe a few of us have been wondering. And what do you look for in a good sleep story video? What would make you sub? And a lot of people were saying that length is important. The background ambiance that's in the video, different themes and things of that nature. Do you have any questions for the viewers as far as that goes?
Yeah. I mean, I would love to ask you guys, what do you think, if you could change anything about this channel, if this channel was yours, what would you do to make this channel perfect for you?
This channel is yours.
This channel is yours, but I mean, like, if you were like at the computer right now, if you were at the computer right now and you were able to change anything, what would you change to make this channel perfect for you? Because that's what I want, is I want it to be perfect for you. This channel is 100% yours. I did misspeak. Thank you, Scare Wifey. And while we got chat answering that question, Phoenix and Grim, do you have any suggestions on what I could do to better myself as a creator?
I'm definitely not the best person. I still didn't even know.
I mean, if I stopped interrupting you guys sometimes, that would be good.
It's do what's best for you, right? Like, people will find more passion in listening to you if you're actually passionate about the things you're providing them.
Mm-hmm.
I
If
agree.
you're just doing it because you can, it's kind of different than doing it because you want to.
I
People
agree.
tend to tune in more when they hear that actual feeling behind your voice. They want to feel like you're actually scared when you read your stories. They want to feel like you're actually happy when you read the joyous parts. So do what you enjoy doing, I think, is my main thing for that.
Scare Wifey?
Kimberly said in chat, louder rain sounds, but not too loud. That is the only thing that I would change, is perhaps a bit louder, but not everyone has the same opinion. That's the difficult part. Sometimes it's too loud. Sometimes it's too quiet. I really do prefer myself to be able to hear the ambiance noises.
Yeah. And I do see a lot of people saying that, and that's something I just want everyone to know I am working on. I'm trying to find that good balance. It does sound different in these headphones than when it actually goes onto YouTube. So I don't really know until it's uploaded, but I am slowly raising the volume of the background sounds until we get there. Scare Wifey?
There's another question from Miss Cannabis, and she was wondering, are there any type of videos that are absolutely off the table, as there are so many different subgenres of horror?
There are a few things that are off the table.
Don't say them.
I'm not gonna say them. But
Let's say
they're
there's
pretty much
certain
common.
themes.
They're pretty much common sense things that are off the table.
There's certain words that YouTube doesn't like, and certain themes that YouTube doesn't particularly care for, that they will demonetize or possibly, if it's egregious
Yeah.
enough, take the video down.
Yeah, like I don't want to talk about cheese pizza on this channel.
Jeez.
You take that back. Cheese pizza is life.
Alrighty.
I have one more thing.
And Interscare Wifey.
Phoenix Fire. I don't know if you saw the comment in chat, but how can people reach out to you and submit stories and questions, concerns on your channel? Because I'm not sure if that's on your Back to Ashes channel or not, but if anybody has questions or suggestions.
Actually, I'm so glad you asked that question because I forgot to plug in my other socials on my Back to Ashes. It's on my main channel. For those of you that don't know, I love anyone and everyone that comments on my videos. I respond to every single person that comments. I never ignore a comment. You can also get a hold of me, of course, on the community tab. You can also email me at phoenixfirenarrations@gmail.com. It is in the chat. I just put it there. And as well, for people who are on Twitter, you can find me on there. I'm very active on Twitter as well. You can just find me under Phoenix Fire. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the comments on the videos, email me, or send me a DM on Twitter. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions and, of course, take stories and requests via email, Twitter, or a comment.
I would like to say, for anyone who's trepidatious about reaching out to any of us, Grim, me, Phoenix, Interscare, please do not hesitate to do so. No one's going to treat you poorly or be offended. That's what we're here for you, the
Absolutely.
viewer. So please don't be nervous. They're the nicest people in the world. And I know some people have said before they get a bit intimidated, but they're very down to earth and they will respond.
I would say that we're all
Please
pretty
don't
down to
put
earth
words
people.
into my mouth. Don't do that.
I will
I am not down to earth at all.
My drug of choice is human interaction. I absolutely love meeting people, meeting brand new people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds. So please feel free to reach out and talk to me. I'm the friendliest person you'll ever meet.
Yeah, these guys right here, I met them on Twitter, actually, believe it or not. And they have turned into some of my best friends in the horror community for sure. I call them my brothers in horror, just like they call each other brothers in horror. They are my brothers in horror. So definitely don't be afraid to reach out to them. Don't be afraid to reach out to me. Don't be afraid to reach out to Wifey. So yeah, thank you for that, Interscare Wifey.
Absolutely.
Grim, how can people reach you?
I don't know if you can still hear me. I just fucked with my microphone. I am on the standard sort of socials. You can find me on Twitter under the Grim Reaper's Nightmare. I have an email address, Grim Story Submissions. It's a very stupidly long email address, but I'll share that in the comment section just below. You can submit stories to me there, put through things you'd like to hear changed in my channel. I mean, I'll take some of them seriously, not a lot, but some. And yeah, I'm pretty straightforward. Most of my socials are on my main channel under my banner. You'll be able to see direct links to them from there.
Awesome. And you can reach Interscare Wifey. How can they reach you?
Wifey@interscare.com.
Or
Boom.
at Interscare Wifey on Twitter.
Yeah.
Those are two ways that
hard
you can
to
reach Interscare Wifey.
That's so hard to remember.
Right? And then for me, you can reach me if you want to submit stories to me. There are 3 ways you can actually submit stories to me. One, you can go to interscare.com/contact-us, and you can fill out the form there, and you can send stories directly to me that way. You can also email business@interscare.com to submit stories to me, or you can go to r/interscare on Reddit and submit your story there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at interscaresleep. And then, yeah, Those are the best ways to get a hold of me. Is there anything else that anybody wanted to say?
Not on my end, no.
Phoenix and Grim both have stories ready to go.
Oh, you both have stories
Yes,
ready to go?
Black-Eyed Children and Paranormal.
Oh, okay, cool. Then we'll continue it on. I thought that Enter Scare Wifey was asking that question because
No, I
because
just, they were
people were at
talking
the
about
end.
it in chat.
Gotcha. I didn't realize that. Okay, so yeah, I'm down to keep going. I like keeping going. Phoenix, do you want to read our next story? Because I think Grim read right before me.
I think I did.
I was going to play rock, paper, scissors with my brother, but whatever. All right. I am going to switch it up a little bit and take it over to the paranormal side.
Alrighty.
All right. The name of this story is entitled Strange Energy Here. I'm starting to fear staying in this new apartment any much longer. Ever since I moved, everything's been going good and fine, especially because we left this other apartment which was filled with terrible dark and demonic energy. Now, I'm starting to think that it's back and this energy found its way back to us. It's sad because it feels very much real and is generally hard to avoid and get rid of. I've been trying to avoid a few people I've known from the past from coming over but couldn't, since they're not my people, nor do I have any say in this. They are my mother's friends, and I've been warning her and reminding her about how badly affected we will be again, based on past events and experiences. Lately, and recently, I've been seeing black shadows constantly moving around at random. I've been seeing doors in the house randomly opening and closing, and this has nothing to do with the wind. I've been constantly looking around as if there's someone in the house or someone near me, even though I'm completely alone, just me and my mother living here. I found a few things that I had to immediately throw away. A tooth while I was cleaning, and no, this doesn't belong to anyone in the household, especially with its shape and size. Nobody else I know has a missing tooth either. I checked. Besides that, this tooth was never there to begin with ever since I moved in, since I've always been cleaning and rearranging the furniture anyway. More and more cats appearing in front of me and my doorway. They're not even as scared. They just sit there and watch me with no reaction. And it freaks me out. Strangers appearing in front of the doorway in the apartment, constantly staring and running away hiding whenever they catch me finding them. Plates, cups, and other random items falling apart and breaking at random times, even without them having to slip, which again, I find very strange. The other day, a ceramic player broke without it being moved or touched. A huge crack, and that's that. It's worse when things just started falling all over the house anyway. Even with the pipes in the sewer department, the explosion of water and so on. Scares me too at how aggressive it gets. Well, I wish for an escape. Let me know. The end.
Alrighty. Sorry, I was unmuting myself again. I know it seems like I'm so long between the end of the stories and coming on. I do apologize for that, everybody. Alrighty, and if we don't have any more questions, Interscare Wifey?
We do not quite yet.
Okay. Remember, if you do have questions for us, feel free to post them in the chat. And also, if you have suggestions for the types of stories that you want us to read, also post them in chat. Samantha, Interscare Wifey's not narrating today because she has been sick over the past few days. So she's letting her voice recover from that.
I feel better, but I tried to record earlier and my voice was squeaking, and that would not be cute.
But we do have a good Black-Eyed Children story from the Mr. Grimm, Reaper's Nightmare. Would you like to read that for us, Grimm?
Right, let's go. So, this one is titled, I've Encountered the Black-Eyed Children. This is an alt account, a long-time lurker of the subreddit. An old friend hit me up. I started reminiscing and I remembered this. I believe I've encountered the Black-Eyed Children over a decade ago in a rural area. This has always low-key disturbed me. Keeping in touch to this day, we've never brought it up again. We were at a local/state park sort of place between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. I remember we were parked alongside the woods and some picnic tables. It was pretty quiet, and we were technically trespassing. We were a 17 female and a 17 male at the time. And what we were doing there, you can leave to your imagination. As our curfews were approaching and we were finishing up our time together, we experienced a very ominous feeling. He was in the driver's seat, preparing to start the car and pull off. The car doesn't start. We sort of laughed it off as it wasn't the first time and talked. Suddenly, to the right, passenger side where I was sitting, we see a faint light coming out of the woods. The ominous feeling intensified. Emerging from the woods were 4 to 5 children, most definitely younger than us, appearing to be 7 to 11 years old at the most. I'm not going to claim that they had black eyes. It was dark and I don't remember, as I was pretty shocked, but I didn't read a bit, nor did I read about black-eyed children, their lore or the phenomenon until years later, as described by everyone else. It seems to be what we experienced. All I can say is they were not normal. They did not belong. The cabins at the park were not occupied. They weren't even getting rented out, as it was autumn/close to winter. We were miles from the park's hotel. There were no adults. They were absolutely out of place. What were the lights? I don't know. The closest thing I could compare them to were glowing sticks. As if they had opened a packet of glow sticks and started wearing them, you know, the bracelet necklace types, or maybe even the wand ones, but it wasn't like they were having fun or goofing off. They just stopped, stood there and stared at us. He tried to ask what they were doing there, if they were lost, where were their parents, but no response. The oldest looking child, a bit heavy set with a grey hoodie on, approached the vehicle, and just in front where the passenger headlights cornered, the headlights corner would be, my friend started really freaking out at this moment. He locked the doors and was like, hell no, we gotta go. Eventually the car starts. The children don't move, and the kid stays put in front of the car. My friend eventually yells at the kid that I'm gonna run you over. So the boy slowly backs away, raises his arm, and points at us as we were leaving. I didn't look back. I swear I am absolutely not making this up. To my recollection, sorry, bad English, this is a true story. Emma. The end.
Alrighty, another excellent narration by our friend, the Grim Reaper's Nightmare. Inner Scare Wifey, do you have anything between stories?
I'm just catching up in chat right now.
Alrighty, yeah, we're catching up in chat. I do want to thank everyone for their video suggestions. Those are some great suggestions. I am definitely going to take those notes down. And yes, so I am actually releasing an 8.5-hour video tonight. It is the Missing 411 compilation. It's the 3 Missing 411 videos that we have done on this channel, all compiled into one video so that you guys can listen to them all in one place. So yeah, that's coming out tonight. And I will read our next story. What is the creepiest thing a substitute teacher has ever done in your school? Okay, so I'm not the prettiest lady, at least by most standards. So I didn't think anything of it. This substitute came in, was kind of quiet, just got the class started, like any normal day while our teacher was out. You know, the usual handout assignments that we can already do. And this was in middle school, when I was a pretty innocent bean. Anyway, I first noticed something when this man kept leaning over my shoulder, and at some point placed his hand on my shoulder. I thought it was to look at my work. It's funny because I was usually pretty good about doing things in class. And if a teacher had a suspicion that I wasn't getting any work done, it was my first instinct to stop writing on it, so they can see that what I had accomplished. So when I put my pencil down and looked up at the guy, he looked pretty uncomfortable and backed away pretty fast. So time passed and I kept wrinkling my nose at the weird interaction. The other classmates at my desk group kept looking up at me, with what looked to be a little like confusion. So I assumed that they didn't know as well. But then after a while, I think people began to realize, because half the class was watching him. It was at this point that I realized he was making certain laps around the classroom that would allow him to look behind girls. Sometimes he would stand there and study them. Sometimes he would even place his hands on their shoulders or arms. It was very apparent that the girls knew, but were too afraid of accusing a superior. No less, a man who could be dangerous or something. And this is why I will always admire the people I went to school with. Noble people. The boys, having noticed this really weird sight, began to ask questions. Just like question upon question. Sir, how does this work? Sir, I don't understand the question. Sir, can you help me with this? Sir, what's your favorite color? Sir, where do babies come from? I mean, they asked as many questions as they could muster, and ones that would often require him to walk over to them, or at least require a long-winded answer. It kept him busy until the class ended, in which every girl hustled out of the room, and the boys followed behind. Awesome kids, I will never forget them. The following day, the boys encouraged us all to tell our regular teacher what happened. She was an awesome teacher, by far one of my favorites in my school years, and so it was easy to tell her. She was such a motherly person and felt awful that she had left us with a person like that and hugged each one of us in return. We assured her that it wasn't her fault, but needless to say, she was pissed as well. Thank God that sump wasn't in the building or stuff would have hit the fan real fast. Anyway, our regular teacher with a few steaming words reported the sub to the school. I'm not exactly sure what happened from there. I don't think much to my teacher's dismay and anger. But I don't think I ever saw that sub in my school again. And my teacher, I don't think, took another day off for the rest of the year. I really hope that it wasn't just us youngins getting the wrong idea. We could have ruined that man's life otherwise. But it was clear that everyone in the room besides him was getting increasingly more uncomfortable. So I feel like only something pretty blatant could set off the whole class. Either way, that's my weird, creepy substitute story.
Next up, Phoenix Fire has a story for us about black-eyed children.
Alrighty, Phoenix Fire, I pass the mic to you.
This one's a long one, guys. Tuck in. The story is entitled, My 9-year-old Killed Our Cat. I Feel Responsible. I let my 9-year-old son play Ouija. He got addicted. Then he murdered our cat, and now he's a violent wreck in the home. I'm scared, and I feel responsible for this mess. Just to put into context, I do not have a functional upbringing myself. My mom was a single mom. We lived in a trailer, and she got outcasted from her Romani family because she had me and my brother young. My brother had cleft lip, palate, so he was seen as some sort of Satan spawn by my grandmother. My mother was heavily into tarot, crystal balls, and rune stones, also tea leaves. When I was 13 and my brother was 11, my mother gathered us around the table and we played the Ouija board. We did it a handful of times. We all thought it was pretty awesome and interesting, and things that the Ouija said came true for us. Even the return of my biological father and his attempt to take my brother and leave me. I did feel rejected and won't say that word, for some time. And in a way, I did resent my brother back then because he got more attention. I would play the Ouija every single night for the 4 months my bio dad took my brother and my mother was in her alcoholic stupors. I'd smoke weed with my then boyfriend and play the Ouija. One night, my then boyfriend, his friend A, and my friend B played the Ouija, and shit started to come out on the Ouija that was pretty freaking dark. It was all about death and the devil. Dark shit. I blamed it on my then boyfriend and his friend messing around. Still, I never touched the Ouija again. So fast forward to during lockdown 2020. I was at home with my 7-year-old. I am a single mom, so yeah, history repeating itself. But I'm not an alcoholic and I don't smoke weed anymore. My 7-year-old is a massive fan of horror PC games and spooky kitty stuff on YouTube. He asks me about the Ouija, and I tell him I used to play it with his grandma and his uncle, and I would play it as a kid. My 7-year-old begged me to play it. I had no board, but I promised I'd get one delivered off Amazon. I didn't believe in any of the crap that happened in the past, and not in the paranormal. So, figuring it was my son's birthday in lockdown and he couldn't have friends over, I had some snacks for our spooky sleepover themed night, and the Ouija arrived from Amazon. We played away at the Ouija, and it started to spell out random stuff. And then, names. My son would get excited and say there were names from his computer game like Freddy and Piggy, stuff like that. Then he would excitedly jump up and down as the planchette started to move and spell out his great-grandpappy's name, who had passed when my son was 3 years old. I let him play with it for a bit, and then we watched movies and went to bed. Fast forward the last 2 months, my son started to exhibit negative and aggressive behavior. He would start to act out at the smallest things. I'd ask him to pick up a towel off the floor, for example, and he'd snap. He punched his fist through the shower door and smashed it. He needed stitches. The nurse stitching him noticed stretch marks on his arm like bear claws, and she asked did we have a large dog. All we had was a ginger cat. It was so strange. When I quizzed my son, he laughed at me in the car, and he said that his imaginary friend was sarcasm. I talked with him about his behavior. My mother, who is a very spiritual person with her tarot and tea leaves, said that he was turning into the devil. I got really angry at her and reminded her of what her mother did to her when she had my brother. That her own mother outcasted her from the family. She said that I needed to get a priest to baptize my son before it was too late. I put this all down to her alcoholic ramblings. That was until last week. I went to bed early because I had really bad nasal congestion. My sinuses tend to get set off badly during the winter time. I had a headache and was feeling pretty rough. I told my son I was going to bed early and that if he needed me to come into the room and let me know. I left him money to order pizza for that night and left him in front of the TV. I felt bad for going to bed early, but I'm a single parent and I'm doing the best that I can. I even left my door open so I can nap in intervals and check on my son. I must have fell into a deep sleep because I slept through getting up to check on my son. I checked the time and it must have been about 2:30 a.m. and the house was silent. I groggily went to the bathroom, peed, seen the lights off, and my son's bedroom door was closed. I got back into bed and passed out again until 6:45 a.m. This time I got up and walked to the kitchen for water and some Tylenol. As I stepped into the kitchen, I nearly slipped on liquid. I looked down on the ground and there were smears of blood on the kitchen floor. I froze in shock. I actually nearly passed out from sheer fear. My first thought was that my son hurt himself deliberately, or that there was a murder while I slept. I started to scream and started to hyperventilate. I heard footsteps and my son walks in casually as if unfazed by my screams. I then started to cry and sob at the sight of him. I quickly turned to confusion and screamed, "What the heck happened?" My son didn't even show concern. In fact, he didn't even feign shock. He just shrugged his shoulders and said, "I don't know." I followed the blood trail, and there was my beautiful boy cat, with his poor little body covered in puncture marks. My kitchen knife from my kitchen stuck into the cat, and literally his body underneath my picture of the Sacred Heart of Jesus that I have on my wall over the back door. I screamed the house down. I quizzed my son over this, but he then started to deny doing anything. He started to talk nonsense. Then after a few days of nagging him and threatening to ring the police and tell them, he admitted that he was using the Ouija board, and his friend on the Ouija told him that he must kill our cat because it was evil, and it was a shape-shifting entity sent by the devil to bring evil into the home. My son calls his friend he's communicating with Zozo. When I Google the name, search results come up that it's a real demon. In no shape or form do I believe it's all real, but the killing of our cat is very real and his abnormal behavior. This has come on very sudden around my son. He used to be so loving and caring. He would sit up on the couch and snuggle into me, and we'd watch TV and films. We used to be so close, but everything changed suddenly and rapidly. My mother still insists that my son is possessed and that we need a priest, etc. I am convinced my son has learned this somewhere. I know not for me because all I have given my boy is love. I do feel responsible for letting him play the Ouija, and I do feel responsible for letting him get away with his behavior. I did bury the cat and I didn't report it. I value my son's well-being and future over the law system. Even though I loved our cat, my son comes first as a mom. I can safely say that. Today I walked into his room and he has many drawings of murder and killing. In one picture, he drew a little baby with no eyes and just blood sockets. He even screamed at me today in an argument that I was a snooping B-word, and that I'm going to be punished by Zozo for being nosy. Thus far, I've broken a wine glass in the sink and cut my pinky. Now I'm sitting at the kitchen table writing this. I'm exhausted. Thank you for anyone for listening.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for that narration, Phoenix. Almost called you Grim there. Excellent narration. Excellent stories. Inner Scare Wifey did say that she has another question for us.
Well, what about sleep paralysis? Do you believe that's demonic possession, or do you think that that's actually just a dream sequence?
So, me personally, I have two different thoughts on it at the same time. I'll answer mine last. Grim and Phoenix, what do y'all think? I apologize. I was muted in this Discord, so they couldn't hear us. Interscared Wifey, do you want to ask that question again?
Yes, I apologize. I was wondering about sleep paralysis. Do you believe it's possession, or do you think it's a dream sequence that you get woken up in and stuck in?
What was that question for?
All of us.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Being that I read my true story, The Shadow Man, I believe it's demonic. I actually believe sleep paralysis is almost, I want to say, a demon, literally. That's how I felt when
Yeah.
I had it, because I actually lived it. I saw it. I saw many doctors and therapists for it. And I do remember going through that and having thoughts that I shouldn't have been having ever in my life. And ever since then, thank God it's gone away. But I believe sleep paralysis is very evil.
What about you?
Grim, what about yourself?
I've gone through sleep paralysis once before, and I mean only once, and I think I scared it away that time because I remember waking up not being able to move and then having that presence over top of me and seeing the black shadow, kind of like the Shadow Man, not quite as intense or physical as what Phoenix had said, but I just was like, you don't have control over me. I was young, I thought I was cool, and kind of fought it off. So a part of me feels it's a mixture of both. It is a interaction with something possibly from the other side, but also your body itself reacting to a moment of half asleep. So it's kind of a dual action where you can overcome it, but there is definitely something there that wants you to remain that way while it plays with your mind.
Yeah, I agree. I believe that it's a mixture of the two. I've had sleep paralysis a few times. All of the times were when I was a child, though. One in particular, actually, I remember was the night that I watched Lake Placid for the first time. I dreamed that the alligator was chasing me, and then like I fell off of a cliff. And whenever I fell off that cliff in my dream, I woke up. And when I woke up, I was in sleep paralysis. Like I wasn't unable to move. I wasn't able to move. However, I never saw anything whenever I was in sleep paralysis as a kid. So I believe that like if you're just kind of stiff when you wake up and it's like kind of like a scary dream that you're waking up from, then I believe that you can literally be scared stiff, especially during certain parts of sleep. However, I do believe that there are some instances of sleep paralysis, like the one that Phoenix talked about, where it truly is a demon that is there. I've heard people tell stories, people that I know personally who I know would not lie to me, have told stories about where they wake up and they literally see this shadow over top of them and it's literally holding them down and they're unable to move. And I believe that that is a form of demonic, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but I believe that that's a form of a demonic interaction. So I believe that some instances of sleep paralysis are definitely demonic, and then others are probably just your body waking up from sleep in a certain way. What about you, Interscare Wifey?
I've never had that experience before, but I remember being told by brothers and sisters that if you're being held down or whatever, that you're not supposed to pray because it'll make it worse, that you're supposed to cuss out whatever entity it is. That's what we were told as children. I don't know if that's just a cultural thing or if it's just something they said to us, but they said to fight it, you need to cuss it out and it'll go away. So I have no idea.
That's interesting because my upbringing was I had a very, very Christian upbringing.
Yes.
Like if my parents knew what I was doing right now, I would probably be blasted.
They're pastors. So
Yeah, my parents are pastors. And I was always told that if that ever happens to you, because whenever it happened to me as a kid, anyways, I was able to move my mouth even though I wasn't able to talk. They said just mouth the name of Jesus and over until you can finally say it and get yourself out of it. So it's kind of funny to see that harsh like contrast of the two different things.
Ooh, I have another question now. Do you believe that all things paranormal, like when you're able to see spirits or things moving around you or any of these things, do you believe that they're all evil or
Absolutely
can they
not.
be good?
Absolutely not. I do not believe they're all evil. I definitely believe that there can be some good entities. However, I also believe that many, many evil entities pretend to be good entities. So I believe that it's very, very hard to discern between the two. But I personally believe that there can be good entities because I've heard stories from people. I've read a lot of paranormal stuff. I've seen a lot of paranormal stuff, and Phoenix's story definitely convinces me that there are good entities. What about you guys?
I'll say one thing. I believe in good entities. One of which, just because, I still to this day see my grandmother. And the weird part about it is I'll go back to when I'm sitting down crocheting or learning something for the first time. If I make a mistake or something, I swear, just right out of the peripheral of my eye, I can just see her telling me it's okay. I can see her mouthing the words, and then I look over and there's nothing there. I don't really believe in bad entities, but then again, I own a really huge, large black cat, and she takes care of all those for me. So I don't think there's any evil entities out there that I've experienced, except for the sleep paralysis demon that I experienced when I was younger.
What about you, Grim? What do you believe?
I think in order to believe that there is good and bad spirits, one has to have some sort of belief in a space after death, such as like a religious belief or spiritual belief. So with my openness to the spirituality, I was brought up with a foster mother who was a psychic, and she did a lot of palm reading and did all of the tarots and so on and so forth. I don't necessarily see a negative or positive in the spiritual form or plane. I see more of just a entity, and it's nor good nor bad. Sorry, neither good nor bad. It is just an entity that we, because of our perception of good or bad, misconstrue what it's doing. Some don't necessarily go out of their way to hurt you. Some may, but it's our perception of what is right and wrong that makes the judgment more on them, if that makes sense. I'm trying to
Interesting.
explain it in a way, but because I don't believe that I myself don't believe in a after world, like a heaven or hell or a religious factor there. I believe more in I don't know. It's kind of like I still believe some spirits are possibly real, like the earth spirits and so on and so forth. But I think we perceive them, and that perception that we have is what really dictates how we feel or what we assume they're doing.
Very interesting.
What about you, Underscare Wifey?
My interactions as a child were far different than when I was an adult. So as a child, being innocent, they were sometimes frightening. It was generally only experiences shortly after the death of someone, but very accurate. I have a lot of witnesses that can recall that as I was a child and stuff. So I do believe that that was something that wasn't necessarily evil, but it was just close to death. As an adult, I've only had very, very evil experiences, so it causes me a lot of fear, but my own fear of those things may prevent me from seeing things that are not necessarily a bad thing.
Alrighty. And Rachel Mahay had another question.
What about aliens, and how many believe the truth is out there?
What do y'all believe? Phoenix, do you believe in aliens?
I honestly do. I've been fascinated ever since. I'm always fascinated with the sky. There are nights that I'll go outside and just stare at the sky, just looking for things that are out of place. I really, really, truly believe there's life beyond our planet.
What about you, Grim?
I can't see how there isn't, if that makes sense. I
That's
mean,
kind of my stance on it too.
it's like there's no way that we are the only ones that um, exist. I mean, if you're going to go by the religious standpoint there, I mean, it's not like a being that created the entirety of the universe would only put all of the eggs into one basket. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So either way you look at it, whatever belief you have, there's not much of a way that it couldn't be possible.
I agree with you. Like, out of an infinite universe, because our, excuse me, because our universe is infinite and ever expanding. I mean, infinite is big. Like, it's bigger than anyone can ever imagine. And with an infinite universe, the fact that out of all of that vast expanse, the only planet is this one little grain of sand, that would be like saying you go to the beach, and out of all of the grain of sands on the beach, only one grain of sand has this particular ant on it or something. Only one grain of sand has an ant on it. And I just don't see that happening. Out of all of the space in the universe, I definitely think that there's other life somewhere out there. Now, whether that be intelligent life, I can't say, and I don't know, but there definitely has to be life out there somewhere. What about you, Scare Wifey?
I kind of have, I'm not going to get into all of it because it's too much, but, you know, the multidimensional, all that stuff, I can't even begin to deny the fact that I think there's other life out there.
Absolutely. Great questions
also
tonight.
just want to, sorry, just around the basis of intelligent or not intelligent life form. Again, it goes back to what I said around how we determine things.
Yes.
Our idea of what is intelligent may not necessarily be what is the maximum of what's out there. There could be things like some creatures. Think about those freaking what are they called? The little tiny little what are they called? Something bears, I think it is. It's like a little. Oh, my English is not going to work with me. It's a little parasite type of thing that's microscopic. It's an alien in the world. It's intelligent in specific ways where it can survive in all forms of circumstances. I mean, what we call intelligence is not necessarily the maximum, as I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really like the way that you look at things, Graham.
Thank you. I don't try to look too hard. I used to be a heavy stoner back in the day, so I spent a lot of time things. Now I'm recovered from it, if you could call it that, and I'm stuck with these ideas that I came up with alone in my room.
Gotcha. Well, I have a couple possession stories here because I saw them being asked for. I've got two that are super short that I'll read, and then one that is of normal length. So here we go with our first one. This happened around the time I was in middle school. A very special event was happening during the time that I will not be getting into for personal reasons. But we had a lot of people gathered in our house, mostly family members. Everything was going well. A pretty chill and calm night. I leave the living room for a few minutes. When I came back, everything has changed. I remember seeing a family member getting held, and she was screaming at the top of her lungs, and thrashing and kicking kids were running screaming and crying. I was choked, and suddenly someone started to recite the Quran. That's when I knew it was serious. At first, I thought maybe it was a medical condition or something, but then I heard whispers about her voice changing and her going through this before. That night, I couldn't sleep alone. I'm older now, but whenever I think about it, it makes me wonder what was really going on with her. Second story. Hey guys, I have a question regarding something that I find paranormal. I have a friend that I've known for 3 years now, and I got to know her very well. She at some point started to act very different, as in speaking Latin, sleeping as a dead person, writing help on the walls, or speaking in what I believe was Latin. She became aggressive towards people. Moreover, at some point, she rolled her eyes back and a whole dresser fell down. I believe that she might be possessed, since she seems to have no recollection of details about our friendship, example, how we met. And at one point, she was extremely disoriented and asked me what year it was and started crying. I need an honest opinion since I think it's worrisome, and I don't know how to help my friend in need. And now, on to the normal length story. So I go cycling with three friends. Today we were supposed to meet one of them, let's call her Amy for this story, at an old graveyard beside her house. There isn't anything sinister about it, just a place to hang around in. It's quite pretty with the summer flowers. Anyway, she didn't come for an hour or something, so we phoned her mom. She said Amy was helping her chop the timber. We were like, okay. There wasn't anything weird about it. We started playing spies. You know, like thinking of theories, why she didn't come, ignoring the thing that her mom said on the phone. We then went to the small wood that's in her land. Then one of my friends, let's call her Bella for the story, said that yesterday, when the other friend and I went home, she was in the forest with Amy. Amy sat a bit from Bella and then started saying, "I need to go back," over and over again, while breaking thick sticks with her hands. Bella was like, "Okay, you can go home now." But Amy just kept repeating it. After a while, Bella went with Amy to her house. Amy said she wanted to go with her to the basement, even though COVID-19. And they were going to go there, but her mama said there was something in the basement. Another few weird things were the day before that, when Amy was saying I needed to go back, me and Belle were saying how boring our lives are, and how we wished that something interesting would happen. And the next day, we felt we were in a book, or a story or something. The night before, I had a dream that I was in prison. Nothing interesting. Bella, that they were in a forest and trying to figure something out. And my last friend, let's call her Charlotte, that some of her families disappeared. Bella later added that Amy was also saying something about somewhere being out of her boundary. I don't know, but often spirits can't go far from the place that they're in. Later, when I was cycling back home with Bella, she said they met. She said that Amy also gave her two things, and said they were their little secret about the stories they made for the basement. Amy also said she can only tell one or two people. So I'm not saying what it is, as with Charlotte. I'm a bit creeped out by it, in all fairness. I think that's all, but it felt so creepy and real. Just remember, Amy started acting weird only when she was alone with Bella. If you have any questions, please ask. Please give me advice on what this is. Just coincidences or something more? P.S. When under UV light, one of the things say, "You have found me." Amy also gave Bella a piece of paper saying, "Don't open the locked door. Don't listen to its whispers. Leave. Just leave." Then there is a half of a V and nothing more. It wasn't in Amy's handwriting, and looked as if it was printed. Amy also gave Bella a book, a storybook or something, with the title something like "The Child Who Went Missing and Got Saved by the River." Bella only read the first page, and it was something like "The child went missing with the man," as if we knew who he was, and something with magic water from a river. Alrighty. Inner Scare Wifey, you have another.
I have two
You have two
questions,
questionnaires
actually.
for us. Okay.
The first one was by Kimberly, and it was, where do you think we go when we pass away?
I've never died, so I can't answer that question. I don't know. I know that I'm going 6 feet under the ground. No, I do believe in a heaven and hell. I do, personally. I don't necessarily believe that we go there immediately, though. I don't know about all of that. I don't know how all that works. Like I said, I've never died, so I can't say for certain, but I personally do believe in a heaven and a hell. Grim, you kind of already gave your thoughts on it, but do you want to kind of say where you think we go after we die?
I'm a bit of a cynic, so I'm probably not the best person to ask. I don't really think there is a life after death. I think the second it's done, it's done. You get one life, do what you can with it. But at the same time, I also think that it's your faith that kind of drives you anyway. So it's not really up to what we believe it is, it's what you believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel that there's something after life and that helps you get through the current life we're in, then I see no harm in that, and focus on that. If it makes you feel better, then 100% stand by that. As for me, I feel better with the idea that there's nothing after. That gives me a reason to strive for my days that I live in, to find enjoyment in the things I do, rather than looking for a possible paradise in the other side, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. What about yourself, Phoenix?
I'm a firm believer in reincarnation. I do not believe that there can be so many good souls on earth that only get 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, whatever years on this earth, and that's it. I believe if you are a very good person, you come back either as another person in another life, maybe as an animal, maybe as something. Now, if you're an evil person with a reincarnation, you might come back as, one of the bugs we squish all the time, but that's just my personal belief. Growing up, I used to believe there was a heaven and a hell, but I really don't think that we go through this life and should have to stress about doing so good or bad. We're either going to burn to death or fly above. I don't believe in that anymore. I believe that we come back if you're a good person.
Alrighty, inner scare wifey.
Well, I was raised in a very religious home, but the problem that I have is that if I believe in that, then my grandpa's in hell. My child that passed away is in purgatory, etc., etc. And I just don't believe that a loving God would do that. I believe that energy, as they say, cannot be created or destroyed. And so our souls, whatever that may be, I believe they continue. Because if you look at someone who is deceased, you can see the light's no longer there. Worst case scenario, we just become energy. That's what I believe. Best case scenario, I get to see my family again. So either way, it works out pretty well for me. I'm comforted in that thought.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll also add too that I also used to believe that once we pass, we go up amongst the stars. That way we can continue to be seen after we're gone. And I still firmly believe that.
Very interesting beliefs by everybody. Definitely interesting beliefs. And that belief of reincarnation that you believe in, Phoenix, that's something that's always intrigued me, because there are so many people out there that, especially young children who don't really know about like religious theories or things like that, right? Mm-hmm. There are so many children out there that can tell you about memories that they have that they've never had before. Like things that they've never experienced before, but memories that they have. And many people believe that that's from a past life. So that thought of reincarnation is one that's definitely very interesting to me.
And I also feel the reason I feel that way as well is, call me crazy, but when we have those moments of deja vu, it kind of makes me think like, I've done this before, but I don't remember why. I really feel like it's from a past life. It's one of those things. And I also agree with what Inner Scare just said. People remember things that they've never done before. And it's so shocking. It gives me chills right now just thinking about it.
There are children that have said how they've passed away, or, the family before their mommy, and they're very young.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes. It is amazing.
And they can take you directly to certain places and tell you how to get in certain doors, those things like that. Like right now,
Yes.
I've got goosebumps. It's so
Yeah.
insane how they know those things.
The next question is from Samantha. What about cryptids? Some are creepypasta, but what about government experiments and unknown species?
I'm a huge firm believer in cryptids. I 100% believe in Bigfoot. My grandfather has seen a Bigfoot, and I 100% believe Grandpa Bob, sir. That's what my wife calls him, is Grandpa Bob, sir. I call him Papaw. But no, I 100% believe my grandfather when he says he's seen a Bigfoot. We grew up in the, I grew up in the Coal
Appalachian.
Valley of West Virginia in Appalachia. Definitely Bigfoot country right there by Richwood, West Virginia, where Bigfoot hunters, Finding Bigfoot, that show went to. They went to Richwood, West Virginia, and I grew up 15 minutes from there. That's where my high school was. So I definitely believe in Bigfoot. I believe in skinwalkers. If you don't know, Inner Scare Wifey has Native heritage. She is Native herself. And really trying to immerse myself in her culture. And I actually recently found out that I have Native heritage as well. But I didn't grow up with the culture she did, and me trying to immerse myself in that culture, I've started believing in skinwalkers and wendigos. I believe a lot of the stories that I read, and that's why I say true scary stories in my videos, is because if it's not something that I can personally believe in, it will not go on my channel. There's been many, many stories that I'm like, yeah, this is too far out there and I won't put it on the channel. But if I'm going to put the True Scary Stories moniker on it, it's going to be something that I can at least believe is plausible. What about you guys?
I myself think there's a good possibility. I guess it kind of fits into my belief that it's really down to how far we are willing to believe in what we perceive. I definitely think the governments have messed with people and done some horrendous experiments, 100%. Like, there's documented proof that they have 100% pissed around and altered people and made weird things out of different creatures. So there's no way in my mind that I can see it where there isn't some sort of creature that was man-made out there. Where I am from, in New Zealand, I mean, we've got the cultural stories of like the tanifas and like water spirits and stuff like that. So, I mean, we hear about them a lot growing up, but I think it's more likely man-made than a mythical creature that lives in a river, but it's a possibility. There's nothing stopping it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Especially about like the government stuff. What about you, Phoenix?
On the fence, I believe the government does test things and whatnot. I mean, in my opinion, these mysterious species of whatever, they just found after thousands and thousands of years, I don't believe that. I think they made it and released it. I believe in things like Samantha was speaking here in the chat. I'll point her out. I believe in things like mermaids. I really do. I think they're real. I believe in Bigfoot. And I believe there are things out there we have yet to discover.
Absolutely.
And maybe they're just too. They're more that they may see us as the aliens and don't want to be seen. We do see them every once in a while, but it's very rare. And for those that have seen them, you've been blessed. I'll say it that way.
Yeah, for sure. No, I 100% agree with all of those. What about you, Inner Scare Wifey?
I mean, you know me.
If there's a
Enough said.
story about it, Inner Scare Wifey believes that creepypastas are real. Like,
Shoosh.
she's sending me no sleep videos or stories for like my True Scary Story videos, and I have to be like,
I learned now.
Wifey.
I don't do it anymore.
But yeah. So yeah, you're
Man,
definitely
it's
amongst some believers here.
May I just say, just because we're talking about scary things, Tim in the chat there says his scariest story are the taxes in Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah.
They're truly frightening.
While you were talking, I read that, and that's kind of why I chuckled a little bit while you were talking.
Those are government made there, Tim.
Definitely government made. I actually have a question for the chat right now, because I'm having so much fun with this live stream. I love doing this. I love talking to my friends. I love just asking questions, learning about different things. Like, I've been friends with Grim for almost half a year now, and I didn't know that he was a stand-up comic until today. I love learning new things about people. I love talking to people, and I love having these conversations. Would you guys listen if I started an Interscare podcast where I don't really read scary stories, but I just talk to interesting people in the horror community and get to learn about what they do, get to learn about different jobs in the horror community, or different positions, different things that people do, or just interesting people in general? Would you guys listen if I started a podcast similar to that? That's something I would really be interested in learning, because it's something that I've definitely been mulling over with Interscare Wifey. Anyways, do you have anything else, Interscare Wifey?
I don't see any other questions yet in chat.
Alrighty. And I don't know where we left off. I know I read the last one. I think Phoenix read before me, right?
Yes.
Graham, do you have any more stories?
Give me a moment. I was looking at one and then sidetracked because I've got the attention span of a child. So just a second. Oh yes. Here we
I
go.
wanted to ask too why Grim was talking. Someone asked in the chat, Rachel did, for you, Grim, because you live in New Zealand. She's asking, what are some New Zealand folklore?
I mentioned one before. So that's the Taliwha. So they are the native spirits. So they are generally creatures of the water. There is because a lot of the cultural history we have here comes from the Maori, and they get theirs very strongly from the Hawaiian and like Caucasian sort of, not Caucasian, that's what I am. The like Samoan sort of islands. So a lot of our myths and legends are based around them, like Maui, the man who caught the sun, the demigod from Moana, the movie there. We have a lot of those sort of tales and stories. He fished New Zealand out of the ocean. It was a whale that he turned to land, etc. So yeah,
That would be very interesting to hear in a narration of yours, Grim.
Yeah, I agree. It's just hard to find stories because most of the ones that exist aren't from New Zealand. They're actually from like Hawaii or Samoa or Tonga, so they're not really based on the New Zealand versions of the stories. They're more on the places where they stemmed from. But yeah, I'll definitely see if I can find some. I might just read a whole folklore books. I think there's a lot of Maui folklore books. That guy, so I'll see if I can find some.
Definitely really interesting. That's super cool.
Thank you. Alright, so I found one. It's a bit long. If I drive you guys crazy, just tell me to shut up.
No, you're good, man. You're good. Everyone, without further ado, the Grim Reaper's Nightmare.
Alright, so this one is titled, I Work in a Haunted Ranch with My Brothers. If you live in Arizona, don't read this post. Just be safe. I grew up with my father and two older brothers on a ranch, breeding and raising chickens and various livestock in the vast, rural, deserts of Arizona. My mom died when my dad got out of the Marines when I was very young, so I had to learn how to make a living for ourselves on our tiny, isolated ranch. It was an extremely quiet and beautiful place to live. At night, the stars shone bright, and in the day, there were mountains and deserts and forests to explore. I remember that it was sometime in May when I was 13, as the weather was starting to reach a scorching point. That I had finished all my chores and
I went out with my older brother Hank. We headed down one of the trails to a creek when we used to go fishing it, when Hank came to a dead spot just in front of the creek. "Junior, come check this out," he said. "Yeah, what?" I walked up beside him to find a large, strong coyote dead on the ground, with its head completely missing and its legs cut off. As they were usually the biggest nuisance in our ranch, it was extremely unusual to see something like that. "Fuck, what do you think got it?" I asked, looking at my older brother for answer. "I don't know," Hank said. "Must have been another coyote or some tweaker." "Where out here?" I asked. "There's no tracks and they don't eat it. And they didn't eat it. Should we go tell Dad?" "Oh yeah, I don't want to be fishing out here with this dead thing sticking around. Come on, let's go." He patted me on the back and turned, walking up the trail as I followed. Taking one last glance at the dead creature, it might have been my imagination, but I swear those dead eyes were staring at me. "What is it?" my father asked once we came back. "You boys are back already?" "Yes, sir," I said. "We found a coyote dead. Had its head ripped off and its legs were gone. Like, really nasty." Coyote? That ain't good news. How far?" "Just down by the creek," Hank said. "Looked pretty fresh to me. No tracks too. It was just there." "I'll go check it out," he said. "Just stay on the ranch for now. Go help your brother. Don't go wandering off too far. Don't know what could have killed the damn thing." My dad grabbed his rifle and vest and headed out to the trail while we were walking out the back of the ranch. Where my oldest brother, 16 at the time, was building new cattle fences near the barn. "What are you doing?" "What are y'all doing here so early?" our brother, nicknamed Gummy, asked. "We found a dead coyote. Dad's checking it out. Told us to come help you," I said. "Dead coyote?" Mom asked, dragging a piece of wood over to a pile and hammering it to the fence. "Like, shot?" "Nah," I said. "You should have seen it. Its head was gone. Its legs were chopped off. Wasn't eaten either." "Sounds like some fucked up hunter did it. For fun," Norm said, as I handed him a screwdriver. "Hunter? No way," I said, rolling my eyes. "We ain't seen nobody out there in years, other than Mr. Louie and the Jamesons. I don't think they did either." "You think it's a skinwalker?" I asked quietly. "Shouldn't say their name," Hank said. "You know what Mr. Louis says about saying names like that? How you'll be bringing its attention to you." "It's just a Navajo tale," he scoffed. Say it all you want, Hank. Only thing that'll be coming for you is your imagination." "Yeah, Junior," Hank said. "Nothing to be scared of. If it wasn't the skinwalker, maybe it was the boogeyman." He chuckled while I rolled my eyes. Yeah. What do you think it was?" "Huh, wise guy?" "Vultures, maybe. Maybe they got the jump on the coyote." "When it was still alive?" "Yeah, right," I said. "Hank, like there's literally nothing else that could have done it." "Whatever," Hank shrugged. "Maybe your boogeyman got it." Later that night, we were having dinner, eggs, potato, and steak, when my usually reserved and serious dad spoke up. So that coyote you boys found," my dad said, taking a bite of a steak. "Looks like it was probably poachers taking the pieces for some satanic ritual or something. Ain't done by no wild animals, I can tell you that for sure." "I told you guys," Naomi said. "Just some hunters, probably some sort of collector." "That's right," Dad said.
and this mystery hunter is illegally trespassing and hunted on our property. So I don't want any of you to go beyond the tree line or too far out of the desert until it's taken care of. Some sicko's on our property, and we gotta make sure he don't touch our livestock. We all nodded and promised not to go far without our rifles, or him coming with us. After dinner, we went out to check on our chickens before coming inside and lifting weights out in the shed with my brothers. We took a shower, went to sleep, and ready to wake up for the next morning. I stirred awake in the middle of the night when I heard the sound of the chickens squawking in their cages, crashing out in the barn. I instantly jumped up, getting off the bed and looking out my window, yelling at Hank and Naomi to wake up and go outside. I heard a gunshot ringing, and in the fast-paced, chaotic scene, I looked outside and caught a glimpse of a tall, lanky humanoid figure holding a hen and running off into the trees and far out into the desert before disappearing. My dad holding a shotgun, and his wife beater bursting into the room, looking pissed off as hell, and putting his jacket on. "Get dressed," he said. "Get the rifle and head out to the barn. Something just attacked our chickens." He tossed Naomi the keys to the gun locker, and I grabbed a small 22 bolt-action rifle while Naomi and Hank both got the 308 Browning hunting rifles. Even though mine was way smaller, it still helped ease my nerves. "Junior," Hank said, "did you see what it did?" Yeah, I said, walking with my brothers and following my dad to the porch across our lawn. Looked like a really tall guy grabbing the chickens and running off. "Butcher?" I muttered. We walked in the barn where it was a total mess with the chicken cages destroyed, feathers and blood everywhere, and dead chickens laying all over the place. The other ones were still squawking and beating their wings in their cages, flooding my ears as my dad sighed and adjusted his baseball cap. "Damn coyotes must have gotten in here," he muttered. "It wasn't a coyote, Dad," I said. "It was a guy. He was really tall and just ran off holding one of the dead ones." "Are you sure?" he asked. "A guy, not as Sinclair's or Mr. Louis." "No, I'm sure," I replied. "He must have been the same guy who killed the coyote we saw." "Damn shame too," Dad said. "Didn't even take the chickens he killed, just cut their heads off and probably ran off when he heard the gunshots." "Are you going to pull the sheriff out?" Hank asked. "Yeah," Dad said. "Just help me clean this mess up and go back inside. The sheriff's probably going to take 30 minutes to get here, so I'll stay out and keep watch in case our prowler wants to try me again." We silently cleaned up the dead chickens and buried them, fixing the broken cages and putting the released chickens back into them. Going back inside while my dad pulled up the lawn chair in front of the barn with the shotgun on his lap. "Shit," I said, after we finished cleaning up and putting our guns back in the locker. "We lost, what, half a dozen chickens?" "Well, we won't lose any more," Hank said, cracking his knuckles and puffing out his chest. "If that jagoff ever shows his face around here again, he's catching one." The end. Now, I will apologize for my accents there. I decided halfway through that I didn't like doing them, but I hope you enjoyed me reading that.
No problem, buddy. It was a great narration. You did good. You did great. Inner Scare Wifey, do you have anything else for us at the moment?
I think I did have a question, and oh yes, I do. Sorry about that. Do you believe in witches, and do you have any personal stories?
What do you mean believe in witches? Because it's guaranteed that there are Wiccans.
Any personal stories, pardon me.
Any personal stories with witches. I used to work with one at Pizza Hut. Whenever I used to work at Pizza Hut, whenever I was like 17 years old, I used to work with someone who was an actual Wiccan. It was pretty interesting. Just, a normal person that I worked with. Pretty fun person to work with. So never really any weird witch stories or anything, but I did know a Wiccan. I also had a very good friend of mine who does like tarot and like the psychic stuff and things like that nature, which is really interesting. But yeah. What?
Oh.
I don't want to dox his name
Oh.
on stream.
I was so curious.
He was my best friend in high school.
Oh.
But yeah. What about you guys? Do you have any interesting encounters with witches or Wiccans or anything of that nature?
I'll just start with the whole, my foster mother, as I said, she was a practicer and that sort of stuff. She did the whole, as I said, tarot cards, palm reading, spiritual side of things, believed in all that sort of stuff. I mean, I wouldn't say that I believed it. She also taught me how to scam people. So, I mean, there are limits to my belief in that sort of area. I think that there are possibly some real ones, but there are a lot of fakers out there who do things such as cold reading and so forth, and they try to pull themselves out as witches and so forth. But really, it's just a key eye and understanding people based on standardized questions and leading questions. But yeah, I mean, there's that possibility.
All right. What about Interscare Wifey?
Well, brujeria. I mean, in Mexico, a lot of my family participates in rituals and things of that nature. A lot of my superstitious things that I do are based off of culture. Dabbling in what some might consider witchcraft, but it's nothing evil or malicious. So I definitely, myself personally, have had experience with it.
Okay. What about you, Phoenix?
I had a great-great-grandmother who was who practiced. I was too young to remember. I just still hear stories to this day. But true story that my mother tells me to this day, my mother did not know she was pregnant with me until that grandmother told her so. Very strange. My mother didn't know she was pregnant. Sure enough, she went to the doctor and boom, found it out. And all she had to do was hug that great-great-grandmother of mine. It was weird. Yeah, that's as close as I come to it.
Alrighty. Do you have anything else for us, Interscare Wifey?
Not quite yet.
Alrighty. Phoenix, I believe you have another story ready to read to everybody.
Ooh, and this time, for the crowd, I'm going to take you into the world of skinwalkers. So here we go.
Alrighty. Without further ado, Phoenix Fire.
The title of this story is Story of Something Big That Reflects at Night, an Unidentified Encounter. I was probably 15 or late 14 at the time, midsummertime. Me and two of my friends left a girl's house late at night, basically sneaking out. She lived deep kind of in the countryside, about a 45-minute walk to get to the city line. We left about 2 in the morning. Me and my two friends, we stepped out of our country subdivision road onto a main paved country road. We took a left onto the main road. We looked to our right. You could basically see just road and woods each direction with some small mailboxes. But on the right side, our opposite direction at the top or end of our view on the road, we could see just a white light or reflector. Imagine. Obviously, that wasn't on our mind. Our mind was not being caught by cops or anything out past curfew. We walked left in the opposite direction. Occasionally cars drove by, so to be safe, we would hide in the woods or tree line every passing car just in case one was a cop. Excuse me for the grammar in this story. Every time we would watch a car go by, our opposite traveling direction, basically we would look back and the white object was getting closer quite fast. You could only see it in the headlights. Once the headlights were gone, it was basically gone. We continued walking, seeing it just confused, but didn't care to wait and find out what it was. We got to about the town line, and this thing was probably only 200 to 500 feet behind us again. We could only see it in passing headlights. None of the cars seemed to notice. When the creature was close enough, it had translucent white skin with big, black holes for eyes, long limbs. It looked pretty skinny, but still could have been anywhere between 6 to 8, or maybe more, feet in height. We get into the start of town with house subdivision streets, basically townhomes. Every four-way we got to on our left, looking a four-way our opposite block street over, we could see the thing walking along with our pace. When I got a side view of it, I noticed its arms hung down pretty low. It's like it was looking at us, but it wasn't. Me and my friends that night weren't on any drugs or snuck out to drink or anything, so it wasn't just some fear or mistake. We were pretty scared, I guess, calm or casual, but it kept its distance. We were about in town and more worried about ourselves getting caught by the law. That one was pretty short.
Alrighty. Thank you so much, Phoenix.
You're welcome. Sorry for the grammar in that one.
Oh, no problem. That's just Reddit for you.
Yeah.
Alrighty, everybody. Inner Scare Wifey does have another question for our guests.
Well, first I'll ask the one that's in chat because obviously I want to give them priority. Samantha said, what are everyone's thoughts on fairies, goblins, and things of that nature in the forest?
I don't know I'm going to let our guests answer this first, actually.
No, you go. You started well before me. Go for it.
I'm just going to say, I don't know. I guess is my best answer that I can give is I don't know. I don't really have an opinion, I guess, about things like fairies and goblins. However, other things in the forests, I definitely believe that there are things out there that we haven't discovered yet or don't know about for certain yet. Like I do believe in certain cryptids and things of that nature. Inner Scare Wifey had something to say.
I believe in cute little critters. I hope that they exist. If they don't, though, that's sad. I hope they do exist. I've never seen one personally, but they sound cute.
For Kimberly Shepherd, just real quick to answer that question. I don't know the name of it, but the one that goes straight up and drops. All right. What about you, Phoenix?
I'm going to go back to my childhood when I first saw the movie Hook, if anyone remembers that story, Peter Pan and Hook, and fell in love with Tinkerbell. So I truly believe there are fairies, and I'm always going to believe that till the day I die. Trolls, not so much, but fairies, yes.
All right.
I would love to believe, I would like the idea of it is interesting for me. It would be cool. I think it would be awesome. That's my basis to it.
Alrighty, and then Inner Scare Wifey, I believe, had her personal question for our two guests
Yes.
tonight.
I'll start with Grim. It is not a sleep video. However, it is very relaxing in my personal opinion and a very good narration. Would you like to give us a very, very, you don't have to spoil alert it or whatever, but a tiny bit about the video that you released tonight? I'd love to drop it in chat so people can go over and take a look after the stream's over if they like.
Yeah, so you're speaking of Erased.
Yes.
So this was a story that was given to me by a very talented author by the name of Rose Black. Like, I am in love with the stories that they write. The main thing about it is, and I think the best way to explain it would be that feeling of loss when no one else can experience the same thing as you, or people who should feel what you're feeling just don't, and what to do. That internal battle you have with yourself is where I think that sits, and I think that's a good description of the story.
It's wonderful. I 10 out of 10 recommend it.
Absolutely, I agree.
And I just dropped that in chat for anybody that would like to go take a look at it. And then Phoenix's video made me have to go out in 25-degree weather on my porch for a few minutes earlier to get myself back together. It's absolutely terrifying. It is by far probably one of the most excitingly scary narrations I've ever heard. Ever. So, would you like to tell us a little bit about yours?
Well, tonight, being that it's Friday the 13th, I decided to drop actually a double feature.
Ooh.
Those videos are entitled Help Me, and the other one is entitled She Loves Me Not. I discovered a truly talented, out of this world talented author on Reddit. He goes by the name, or I'm sorry, excuse me, she goes by the name Inevitable Cookie 74. She Loves Me Not is, without spoiling it, about, or she allowed me to alter the story, so I made it about best friends, and it's about having one of those clingy best friends you can't get rid of. And I will end up spoiling my own story.
Yeah.
It's one of those that you
So
need to
good.
listen to. If you are going to bed, I highly recommend you do not listen to that.
I agree.
Wait until tomorrow. And the story Help Me, oh boy. Help Me is, you'll just have to listen to it. I can't really talk about it without spoiling it, but I also highly recommend that you listen to that tomorrow instead of before you go to bed, unless you can handle horror, before going to bed. But both stories have SFX work in it, and there's a lot of loudness and screaming and gory sound effects. So please check those out if you are an extreme lover of horror.
Absolutely. And then, so we are drawing near to the end of our stream. We are not at the end yet. What we're going to do is each of us are going to read one more story and answer any last questions that you have in chat. So if you have questions, now is the time to put them in chat, because we're each going to read one more story and answer all of our last questions and then end it for the night. So I will start it off with a creepy encounter. Encounter with a creepy man in a poncho. I've been debating about whether to post this or not, but I've finally decided that it's been long enough for me to talk about this. This happened to me and my mom a few months ago back in October. It happened in a very rural part of New Hampshire, like a side road on a side road type of neighborhood. It was pouring out, as it had been raining for pretty much the whole day. My mom had just gotten back from down the street in my sister's car, and I was on the couch in the living room when suddenly I heard the doorbell ring. Our front door has a big glass pane in the front, so we can look out from the inside, and someone can look in from the outside. Through this window pane, I see a man. I didn't get a great look at him, as I didn't have my long-distance glasses on. The man noticed that I had seen him, and waved as if trying to be friendly. For the rest of this post, I'll refer to him as Poncho Man. I got up and thought about opening the door for Poncho Man, but relented, as I couldn't properly see who it was. I didn't want to let a stranger into the house. Instead, I went down the hall to my parents' bedroom, where my mom was getting ready for work. She asked what was up. Sorry about that, our rain sounds ended. She asked what was up. And I explained to her that a man in a poncho was outside our door and wanted to talk to us. She went as white as a ghost. Immediately, she stopped getting ready, closed and locked the bathroom door, and started checking the windows to make sure that they were locked. I asked her what was going on. My mom explained that she was driving home. She had seen the Poncho Man. She had been standing, motionless on the side of the main street. As soon as my mom turned down our road, she started to walk, presumably to follow her. She said the encounter was weird but thought nothing more of it. Why would someone be out in the pouring rain, down a back road in the afternoon? It was like he was waiting for something. I started to panic as well. My mom called my aunt, the two are like best friends, and asked what she should do. My aunt told her to call the police immediately, and so we did. We proceeded to pace around the bedroom, frantically looking out the windows to see if we could see Poncho Man. From where the bedroom was angled, it was impossible to look at the front porch to see if he was still there, but we were desperate for anything. After what felt like hours, we finally saw a police car pull up. We carefully unlocked the door and went down to let the officer in. We explained what we saw, and he agreed to do a scan around the neighborhood. As he left, I noticed there was something on the doorknob. I took it off, and it was a political ad for a candidate that was running for office. It's possible that Poncho Man was just campaigning for the candidate, but there are a lot of holes in that story. It was pouring out, so why would you go door to door? And why would you go that route in such a rural neighborhood? The houses are so far apart, you'd barely make a dent on foot. The time doesn't make sense either. Sure, I and my mom were home, but it was about 4 in the afternoon. Most people would still be at work, so you'd probably get no response from knocking anyways. Eventually, after the officer returned, he had found the guy down the road and had questioned him. Poncho Man was able to ID himself, and he claimed that he was a political campaigner and was just knocking on doors for that reason. When probed further, conveniently though, Poncho Man couldn't provide any other door signs, as the one that he had left on our house was the last one. That makes the campaign story even more absurd. Our house is in the middle of the street. It's not like we were the last by any means. So why wouldn't you bring enough for the whole street? Even the officer pointed this out to us and said that it was unusual behavior. Although the officer was suspicious of him, there wasn't anything he could do about it, as there was no way to prove intent. He told us to be alert and do not hesitate to call if Poncho Man returns. Fast forward a few weeks and I start noticing that a police car seems to be permanently stationed down the road from us, about a 3-minute drive. I got curious and asked my mom about it, and she said that there were multiple break-ins into the houses down the road, and the police were doing a sort of sting operation. The Poncho Man encounter and the break-ins may be unrelated, but considering how Poncho Man acted, I have a sinking feeling that they are connected. Thankfully, for the past few months, we've heard and seen nothing of Poncho Man. Excuse me, my throat got really dry there for a second. I apologize. Thankfully, for the past few months, we've heard and seen nothing of Poncho Man. We got a new doorbell system with a camera, and the police left the area where they were doing the sting. I hope that this whole situation is over and done with, and that I never have to meet Poncho Man again. I do apologize for that at the end. My throat just got really dry all of a sudden. Do we have any more questions in our Scare Wifey?
Not that I can see.
Alrighty. Remember, if you have any more questions, please put them in the chat for us. Grim, do you have another story for us to read?
Yes. Oh my god, I muted myself because
No problem.
life. Yes, I do. This
Alrighty.
is just about aliens. Close encounter with a UFO as a child. I just saw a post from someone here who shared his or her experiences, and I'm kind of new in this sub, so I want to share my experience with y'all. I talk about it whenever I can with people I know or get to know, and nobody ever believes me, which I'm used to, and I don't expect anyone to believe me, especially here as well, but my experience is just so unbelievable that I have to share it regardless of if people believe it or not. I just saw an interview online with the head of GEP. It's a German organization who is responsible for sightseeing and just wrote them an email with my sightseeing, and I'm curious if someone will respond, or if I'll get any notice before someone asks. Before someone asks why I'm coming up with this now, I honestly don't know. It never occurred to me to report this before. Before I dive in, I want to apologize in advance for my bad English. I know it's horrible, but I will try my best. It's funny how I can remember every single detail of this experience, but totally forget the year or date that it happened. It must have been around 2005 to 2008. I believe I was around 15 to 18 years old. I just know it was a cold month because it wasn't late, but it was already dark, so I assume it was in winter. I travelled to my grandparents by train. The village was called Bad Wild. Okay. For anyone who wants to use Google Earth. Okay. When I got there, I walked up the mountain where my grandparents lived. Two people walked in front of me, an older man ahead, and then a girl about my age, and then I was just staring at my phone. So I briefly looked at the path and saw the two looking up at the sky. I also focused my eyes up to the sky, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. A UFO flew very slowly over my head. It was maybe 10 to 15 kilometers per hour maximum. It had a diameter of about 10 to 15 meters. Lights climbed around the object, colorful lights. Some of them flashed up and down. A bright glowing dome could be seen on top, and a slight hum was heard. It rose further towards the mountain and then disappeared over the trees in the forest. It flew towards Ouija. It was a damn UFO, guys. Not a balloon, helicopter, or plane, no. What I saw was a UFO, and I can remember every detail. I don't think I will ever forget what I saw. I'm not the person who would tell that it was controlled by aliens, but was our technology ever that far, and then or now? I don't think so. Did someone else experience this sort of sightseeing? See anything similar looking to the UFO I just gave you the description of? Let me know and tell me what you think about it. Yeah.
Alrighty, thank you so much for that, Grim. Excellent story, excellent narration. Inner Scare Wifey, you had another question from the audience for us.
The audience would like to know who's your favorite author?
All right, I'll let this go to our guests first.
I'll be smart and just jump straight in. I wouldn't really say that they're an author, but it's the Brothers Grimm, obviously. See where I got my name from initially, before I jumped into the Reaper style. I just very much had a love for the old school fairy tales before they were Disneyfied, based on the actual heritage and culture that they stemmed from.
Awesome. Definitely great. That's a great choice. What about yourself, Phoenix?
This one comes out of the blue here, but my all-time favorite author is Anne Rice. I am absolutely fascinated with vampires, and she is one of the most incredible writers I have ever read in my life.
I know you can't see it right now. You'll be able to see it on the stream in a second. But Inner Scare Wifey, I looked over, and she's, as soon as you said Anne Rice, she literally went. So
I have every one of her books on Lestat. I absolutely love Anne Rice.
Inner Scare Wifey, what about you?
I also like Anne Rice, so that's kind of creepy. Wow. Huh. Speechless for once. Go ahead.
I don't read a lot, but if I had to pick a favorite, I would pick as a child, actually what got me into horror. It's not really truly considered horror, I guess, but what got me into spookiness was Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. So I would have to say that Daniel Handler, which is the guy that wrote under the pen name Lemony Snicket, is one of my favorite authors. And then as an adult, I've got to say the Queen of Suspense, Mary Higgins Clark. You got to love her.
Another question that we have in chat is, do you believe vampires are real or just good stories?
I mean, I believe that there are people who like to drink others' bloods and things of that nature. But I don't believe in like the Dracula version of vampires where they like live for thousands and thousands of years and do that. I believe that those are just stories, but I definitely believe that there are people who live the vampire lifestyle and like drink blood and do all
Werewolves?
that things. And kind of the same thing with werewolves. I believe that there are people who live the werewolf lifestyle and they'll go out and they'll howl at the moon. They'll know there are people who go out and they'll howl at the full moon and they'll do stuff like that. But I don't believe that there's people who turn into wolves at night and wreak havoc. What about you guys?
I believe vampires are real. I kind of agree with what you're saying. I don't think they live for thousands and thousands of years, but I do believe they walk amongst us, and I believe they live that lifestyle. Werewolves, meh, not so much. I've never been too keen on werewolves.
What about you, Graham?
I think just because I spent so much time researching that sort of myth in general, like most of the old tales, they kind of made mention of them and what they used to deem it a possibility. I myself cannot believe in them. As you said, I do believe in, and not as even a belief, you just know there are people that live the vampire lifestyle, but with what they believe was the cause and trigger for these people that were deemed to be vampires, I just don't have that strong a belief in it. For example, your hair doesn't continue to grow, your nails don't continue to grow, your skin just gets tightened as you start to decompose, as a general example. So for me, no, I don't think that they exist, but I do believe people live that sort of lifestyle choice.
And her scare wifey?
I'm going to make a lot of people gag right now, but I love Twilight and stuff like that. I don't think it's real. I don't. I think some people do certain things to try to be like a vampire, but I mean, I think it's just a kink. Is that bad to say?
No, that's not bad.
I
to
mean,
say.
I wouldn't mind to become a vampire, but I think it'd be sad to leave your whole family behind and stuff like that. I don't know.
Alrighty. And then I believe, Grim, you just read for us, right?
I did indeed.
All right, everybody. This is your last chance. Phoenix Fire is going to read our last story for us. If you would like to get in another question, please get it in now. Without further ado, Phoenix Fire.
All right, guys, I'm going to take you over into the world of wendigos. This story is entitled, My Experience with the Wendigo. Please excuse the grammar. I will do my best to get through this story. Here we go. Ever since my obsession with the Wendigo, it began in March 2019, things have taken a turn for the worst. Luckily, my family isn't affected by this. It's only me. The rest of 2019 goes by normal, the same with most of 2020. In August, as I'm about to move from my old home, I have a seizure and am rushed to the hospital by my family, which changes my life forever. My bad luck dies down from that, but it becomes only minor things. Stuff that isn't just a coincidence and happens maybe once. For example, every time I play a video game, I get terrible luck. Since I can't drive due to my epilepsy, my bad luck transfers over to my family. Almost every time we drive, it's consecutive red lights, or it will be green and turn red just as we are about to go through. It's not common to hit a green light. This week, roughly Sunday, Monday, I had a sleep study done for my epilepsy to see what happens when I sleep. That night, I get terrible sleep and dream of a wendigo, and in the morning, I am diagnosed with sleep apnea. No surprise. I was born in December on the 17th. I was born with a hole in my diaphragm, so I had to get surgery done. I was lucky I survived. I only had around a 25% chance of survival. Besides that, my feet roll inwards and I can't walk properly, meaning my feet can't stand regularly. The inside of my ankles are weak and curl inwards. Somehow, despite all of that, my running speed has increased. But so has my hunger. The first wendigo-like symptoms occurred back when I was younger. And when I started being able to walk on all fours normally, I could walk outside in 40-degree weather with just my underwear on and on all fours and run faster than any human. It sounds weird, but I do believe I was 8. I think, if I remember correctly. I did this at night too, in temperatures between 30 and 40 degrees like it was nothing. I eventually stopped and everything went back to normal because that was weird. I forgot to mention I became extremely good at climbing, which never went away today. Ever since 2020, my extremities feel like they're freezing. It started with my toes, then my fingers. Now more recently, it's my nose and ears. And I'm not just feeling cold. I am always this cold. When I put my hand on someone, they jump away because it's so cold. The most recent symptoms is my increased strength and hunger. I also look more tired. People say I look more dead behind the eyes than I used to. As of now, all I want to do is go outside and start running. The end.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Phoenix. Great story, great narration as always. Interscare Wifey, do you want to read us our last questions from chat?
Okay. Well, we talked about vampires and werewolves, so what about the zombie apocalypse? Is it going to happen?
Phoenix?
I think, well, not really in a joking manner, but in my sort of train of thought. I think it already happened with COVID-19, just how people were acting crazy and whatnot. But if we're talking about true living, flesh-eating, brain-eating zombies, I'm half and half. I think if something as crazy and chaotic as COVID can happen and other crazy diseases, why not? It could come. But in a sense, I don't think so.
Grim?
I'm sort of half and half, yeah.
I just want it to happen. I mean, in theory, it's probably not a possibility. At least not in our lifetime. There isn't anything at this point that exists that's capable of reanimating those that have passed away. The possibilities, like of a rabies type infection where the host is still alive, could possibly happen. But I don't believe that it's likely that we will see in our current lifespan a reanimation of corpses and that sort of section.
I agree with you. I definitely think that it can happen. I definitely think that we could have an outbreak of some sort of virus like rabies, you know, where the host is still alive, but the virus just takes over their brain and causes them to do these things, like they're very zombie-like. So if we have a zombie apocalypse, that's how I see it happening. What about you, Interscare Wifey?
I agree with that 110%. That's exactly what I was thinking as well.
Alrighty.
And it's weird that you say that because there's a species of ants. They call them zombie ants. There's a fungus that takes over their body and
That's
reanimates
nuts.
them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting topic. I spent a lot of time watching the videos based on it. It's more it takes over their standard processing, so they don't feel pain anymore, etc. But they are still kind of alive. They just walk endlessly until they no longer can.
Yeah, and then there was the breakout of bath salts where people
Yep.
were literally eating folks.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
I remember
It was
that.
I remember that as well.
It was insane.
And then Inner Scare Wifey.
The last question, and it's the debate of the sleep story century, is rain or fire? Background noise.
That is one of those ones I think I'm confident to answer. I think if you grew up with a crackling fire in the lounge while you were sitting there watching TV or having your parents read to you, then maybe fire would be more soothing. But then again, if you were a child who had your parents read to you and you're scared because of a storm, then it would probably be more relaxing. So it's going to come down to the individuals. I didn't have either of those, so I'm not overly impacted. I'm more there for the tail in the background.
Alrighty, and I know that I'm getting ready to ask a literal flaming bird this question, but Phoenix, rain or fire?
That's hilarious.
I'm gonna follow in my brother in horror, the Reaper's footsteps. I love both. I can't choose one over the other. I do love a tremendously loud thunderstorm. There's something very soothing about it, but nothing beats the sound and warmth of a crackling fire. Hence why I am called Phoenix Fire.
Me personally, I like falling asleep to fire sounds better. But whenever I put fire sounds in my videos, I get raked over the coals by my viewers in the comment sections. So I stick to rain in my videos for the most part. Every once in a while, I'll throw in a fire video. But me personally, I like to fall asleep to fire sounds in the background. What about you, Inner Scare Wifey?
I love real rain and thunderstorms. I actually have like a really weird obsession with it. So I enjoy rain, but I'm so picky about the rain sounds that most channels' rain to me sounds like sizzling bacon. So I have to have just the right kind of rain sound to be able to listen to it. I hated fire sounds. Did not like them, couldn't stand them. Not even in your videos, no offense.
Yeah, no.
Until I heard Phoenix Fire's fire videos, and now I cannot get past the second video. I did not know I liked that or that it was soothing to me at all, but it reminds me of Grandma and Grandpa's fireplace. Like, it is so
I agree.
nostalgic and safe and just yummy.
Phoenix, you still need to send me those fire sounds, by the way, so that I can fall asleep to them here at home.
Because you are now our brother, I sure will. And I'm gonna ask this question. I know the audience has been asking. Another sound that I've always asked people, and it's always up in the air. I love falling asleep to the sound of a fan. I'm really weird. I love the sound of wind, just in general. So the wind gives me that soothing, calm. I don't know. It's almost like you might as well pick me up and rock me like a baby. Something soothing about the sound of wind. Anyone else like the sound of a fan? I don't know.
I like the sound of a fan in real life.
I know Mortis Media did one wind video, I believe, and it didn't do well compared to the other ones that he did. I love the sound of a fan. I think that would be very, very soothing, that nice white noise. But for some reason, I've seen on YouTube it not, for some reason, do very well. I don't know why. I wonder what our audience thinks.
I'm a big guy.
Miss Cannabis likes it.
It might be worth trying sometime. I mean, there's some different things that people have been asking for lately, like, for example, rain on the ocean. No one's done that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone's done that yet. Rain on a tent. That fan sounds lovely, and I would love to hear it. You know, like, there's a lot of things that could be tried that people just have to be adventurous and give it a shot and see what happens.
Yeah.
search as like white noise channels. You know what? I think I'll take a stab in the dark and maybe try one and see how it goes over with the views. I don't know.
Sounds very interesting.
It does sound interesting, and it's something that's very unique. It would be unique
Yes.
to you because not a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I don't know anyone else that's ever done it.
In my mind, though, I'm thinking, how do you narrate with white noise? Because white noise is just something that should be heard by itself. I don't know. I guess we'll test and see.
It could be terribly comforting. It might be just amazing. Who knows?
Yes, Ms. Cannabis, you're correct. It can't hurt to try.
Absolutely.
I will say that one thunderstorm video, I didn't think that thunderstorm could be done to sleep stories, and it was beautiful.
And that thunderstorm video that Phoenix did, what you're listening to right now is the thunderstorm that he used in that video.
It's so satisfying.
I stole them from him.
I got to say this for anyone that has never heard his channel before. If you do go over and give it a shot, the rain or fire or whatever you're going to get on there is so immaculate. It is probably the most fine-tuned I've ever heard on any channel.
I agree.
For the chat, you guys don't know, I'm an audiophile. I have really bad OCD. If it does not sound good to me, it does not get published. So please believe anything that you listen to on my channel. I have sat here for hours before I publish it because I want you to hear the best of the best.
So crisp and so relaxing.
Absolutely. Alrighty.
Noise in the back.
What was that, buddy?
Samantha just wrote, maybe use brown noise in the bank.
Well, there actually are different types of, like, quote unquote collars of noises. My favorite is red noise. I like red noise better than all of them.
Oh. In my mind, I just heard someone on the toilet, to be honest. Just
Oh, that's our favorite Reaper.
There's the stand-up comedy, guys.
All right. So, Grim, where can people find you if they want to follow your socials, your YouTube, all of that good stuff?
they can find me in New Zealand, but you know. Yeah. Other than that, I'm on Twitter. My usual rundown and run through is the Grim Reaper's Nightmare on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. I got one there as well, just to kind of keep things going with the oldies, because those boomers don't like the new technology. And then obviously you can get on my community page. Anything I posted, I'll respond to everybody because I don't get much traffic, so you're definitely going to get the attention. Yeah, it's all found in my description of my page anyway. There's a link tree that has all my art files, so all my artist based stuff, including Instagram and so forth, where I put all of my pencil sketches, animation, and digital work there, so you can have a look at those. Yeah, that's me.
My profile picture is actually drawn by Grim.
Yes. Grim did the art for Inner
So
Scare
talented.
Wifey's profile picture.
Love it. My avatar.
Grim is also a talented artist. Phoenix, where can people find you?
You can find me on youtube.com/@phoenixfire_YT. That is for my horror videos only. That's my big channel. And my newest channel is youtube.com/@backtoashes_YT. Those are my sleep videos. Those will be uploaded on Monday and Wednesdays. And you never know, once in a while I'll surprise you on a weekend. And then of course you can find me over on Twitter at Phoenix Fire. So if you need to get a hold of me, there you go.
Inner Scare Wifey, where can people find you?
On YouTube. I don't know.
Give me 1 second here. All right, everybody. You can find Inner Scare Wifey on https www.youtube.com/@InnerScareWifey. I posted the link in chat if you want to go sub to her. You can also follow her on Twitter @InnerScareWifey. Get a little more content there over at Twitter, not necessarily narrations, but updates about us, about videos coming out, different things like that over on the YouTube or over on the Twitter. You can also follow me right here youtube.com/innerscaresleep. I'm sure that you know about this channel, or else you wouldn't be at this live stream right now. And you can also follow me on Twitter at innerscaresleep. You can get a hold of Wifey by emailing wifey@innerscare.com, or you can get a hold of me by emailing business@innerscare.com. But without further ado, guys, thank you so much. This has been a 3.5-hour live stream, the longest live stream that we have had on this channel so far. This was even longer than our New Year's stream.
Thank you so much for sticking with us. It's amazing.
Can I just jump in for a second? Discord. We haven't actually spoken about our Discords, and we each have a Discord server. I just thought maybe it would be a good idea to at least make
absolutely.
Give me a moment to drop that in chat before you end the stream, pretty please. I'll go in and do it right now.
Absolutely.
That'd be a good idea, because we all share our most recent stuff. You'll probably see it there more than you'll see it on YouTube, because the algorithm like us all. We also have things where our TikToks get shared, I suppose, from some people. Me. People share the Twitter. You can find a lot through there.
Absolutely, I agree. So Innerscare Wifey is going to drop all of the Discord links real quick. So if you have Discord, make sure you join the Discords. We'll let her do that before we end the stream. I also want to announce that we had an 8.5-hour True Missing 411 compilation drop on the Innerscare Sleep channel tonight. If you want some good Missing 411 stories, definitely go check that video out. It's all 3 of the videos that I've done previously about Missing 411, all compiled into one super long video to hopefully get you through your entire night of sleep. So I see that Innerscare Wifey has dropped Phoenix Fire's Discord and Grimm's Discord.
One moment, please. I believe Cannabis also has.
Just
give me a second.
Oh no, I know. I'm not. I was just saying that out loud for my own.
Gotcha.
Sanity. You dropped our Discord. Yes, make sure you join our Discord. If you do join the Interscare Discord, we do have movie nights like once a month-ish, where Interscare Wifey and I will rent a movie, or we'll find a movie, or we will have everyone vote on a movie to watch. We watch horror movies in our Discord once a month, and it's a lot of fun. Make sure you join and come hang out with us. But yeah, without further ado, I'm Innerscare, joined by Innerscare Wifey, Phoenix Fire, and the Grim Reaper's Nightmare. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this stream, guys. For real. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anytime, my dude. You know that.
Thank you all.
And thank you all for watching. You all mean the world to me as viewers. You really do. Innerscare Wifey?
Yes, we thank you all and have a great fright.
Yes, have a great fright. Bye-bye, everybody. You have an excellent rest of your night. Good night.